I was gonna do some popper today. But now, it appears like we have to dispel some myths. Once again, beating the dead horse over and over again with this topic because, unfortunately, here in the Western world, we put a lot of emphasis on diversity courses and sports and what else in school system these days, and no one ever gets taught simple, basic economics, which is the saddest thing in the entire world because it will, the cold, harsh reality of life is capital makes the world turn. And every time you try to mess with the markets, it ends up causing a worse problem than before you decided to meddle as an economic, as a government institution messing with economics. So, many may know, many of you, we probably have some overlap between the fans of my stuff and Tulare Community College, but today we got kind of a call out on the Tulare Community College video, so I am going to respond to it, as I am pretty sure the reference and the person that is screenshotting or sending pictures over Twitter of all of my investments and making fun of Popper is me, because I've been doing that in the past with a lot of other cards. We've even seen, I've done it with Modern. I like to kind of show off when I actually do make a proper spec, and then we'll show them off on Twitter. So I'm pretty sure that's where the reference is with the Tulare Community College video. So we're going to look at the Tulare Community College video. I'll respond to various parts of it. I'm not 100% against the message. I don't think I've ever really been against the people that are excited about challenger decks. I just wish that people would look at them honestly and realistically, and also see that these weren't a gift from Wizards of the Coast. They were a Trojan horse from Wizards of the Coast. They are an illusion of value. They are something that everyone thinks is going to be good, and when they actually do come out, they are going to be something that is lackluster because the shelf life is basically down to nothing. So we have about, what, 4 or 5 months where these are legal. I've stated in the past, I just can't wait for kids to come in to my store in October, ready to do battle in F&M with standard F&M with their little challenger decks, to tell them that they cannot use them. In fact, they cannot use 95% of the cards in the deck, that they're going to have to replace basically everything and start from scratch, when they just bought their little decks from Walmart and are excited to come in and play the format. If Wizards did care about people getting a fair shake in the standard environment, they would have made decks that would have lasted longer than a mere 5 months, and would have chosen cards that already weren't decreasing to the point that they were worthless. There's very few things in these decks that will hold any value. Post-rotation, these are very comparable to like the Elspeth versus Cura decks, where they wanted one last hoorah, one last little bit to squeeze the equity out of the format, and or out of these cards that are rotating, and gets people that have been wanting to finish off their playsets a little outlet to do so. However, these cards would have already gone down to, if people are wanting cards to pick up after rotation, basically every price of anything that doesn't see any modern play or commander play goes substantially down. So let's just start looking at some of, turn the music off here, I think it's a little bit too annoying, and we'll start looking at some of these comments. I'm going to go over the YouTube video itself. We'll listen to bits and pieces of it. Hopefully I can edit it without making this too obnoxious, and then we'll start reading some of the comments, which I think are hilarious here on the various, like, MTG Finance response, the Tulare Community College, or Magic TCG, might as well call it the Tulare Community College subreddit, their response, and we'll look at the hilarious YouTube comments about the challenger decks. But first of all, I like to open it up because I never read chat. In fact, I'm going to load up the chat here, and let's get to some questions about challenger decks. I just want to throw out some questions for chat. How does everyone like the idea of challenger decks? Are you going to buy them? Because I'm going to give a proposition at the end of this video that I can get 10 sets of this and put your money where your mouth is if you actually do want this stuff. Because I'm willing to make a deal with someone that I will sell you all of the challenger decks in exchange. I'll even keep them sealed in exchange that you send me all of the equivalents to the Settle the Wreckages, the equivalences to the Uncharted Territories, the equivalents to the Field of Ruins, and I don't know, maybe some of the value of the Hazaret deck, because there is at least some sort of value in that. And you can get these entire sealed challenger decks if you just pay the cost of the distribution price. So that's going to be my deal. You know, a couple. What does that end up equaling? 4 play sets of, or 5 play sets of. No, we get 10. So yeah, so 5 play sets of Field of Ruins and 5 play sets of Uncharted Territories, and so that only ends up being 10 Settle the Wreckages. So yeah, that'll be my profit margin, and people can keep the rest of it. So anyway, let's just get into the comments. You have a comment for me, either at me or Casey and Scron. You can help me answer the questions here in the chat. In fact, I don't know, should we open up the Discord to the other members of the Rogue Deck Builder team? We can get their inputs. Maybe they will have a different. I'm going to go ahead and join the audio board for I am in on the good old Discord. So if Casey or Scron wants to join me, we can discuss this, and you can keep me fair and balanced here. We do have a Discord right now, Cardsphere. We can give you an invite to our Discord. We haven't really done it public before. I've just used it as a platform to kind of live stream videos with the other ones. But you know, I want to hear dissenting points of view. Maybe we can actually open it up. And how do other people do this on these call-in type videos without like giving out their private Discord for later on? Maybe Casey can figure that out. If Casey can figure that out, we can get some people in a waiting room, and we can have your questions. You can have your airtime on the Rogue Deck Builder. So again, little bit of I am a little bit peeved by the video. I consider myself kind of the watchdog of Magic the Gathering. Yes, sometimes I'm very opinionated. Sometimes I'm a little bit jaded based on who delivers the message. I've caught myself do that before. I don't like to say, usually I'll give Wizards the credit if they did something good, but I am going to criticize them when they do something bad, and I do not like these challenger decks. I do not think that they are going to have the effect that everyone is so convinced that they are going to just have this flood, this whole increase, that thousands of new players are just going to come into F&M, which is dead at most stores, by the way. It's very, very hard for even established stores to fire a standard F&M, mainly because standard is uninteresting with the various decks that are being played at the moment. So, all right, here we go. So, my first ad is from the Chad Neary. I like decks. I like decks. I like the decks, but I won't buy them. I think that TCC touched on this in his video, that these products are probably for no one that even watches his videos. They're going to be for the people that just come across them at Walmart and like, hey, look at that, it's a competitive deck, I'll buy it. I've had a few other people reach out to me saying that they haven't played Standard in years. However, this is going to be what gets them into the door, and I'm thinking that to me that's kind of a pathetic excuse that you're saving $40 on a deck and that's what's going to get you into Standard, because legitly right now the decks are going for around 70. Let's just discuss that before I get into your questions. So I made a whole video about this. Here is the actual prices of the Challenger deck list going by TCG mid price. TCG mid price is not a good indication of real world value because market price is usually much better. Unfortunately, Goldfish tried to switch over to market price. However, there was a lot of bugs with it, and it can also be abused to show that other cards, like people fake buying cards from each other. Sometimes that little fee from eBay is worthwhile to do so they can actually legitly affect these prices to their advantage. So they went back to kind of the TCG mid because it's a better representation of overall prices. But if we actually look at these, I'm gonna highly criticize these here in a second, because you can see, especially this Vehicle Rush deck sitting at $90. We can even just look at buy list, or not buy list, sell prices from these cards, like the Four of Heart of Crons. So if we come over here to the Four of Heart of Crons, you can actually get them directly from Channel Fireball for $3. So this $5.42 is very, misguided. Since the card sphere is in here, we can pimp out some card sphere. I've been trading off card sphere for anyone that even wants these for around $1.50. I've sent them off. So Heart of Cran over here, the amount of wants of this card is $1, $1. Last 4 trades, there have been some people that have got these at 47%, which I think that, unfortunately, I think this is still too high, as no one even wants these cards in buy lists, so Card Kingdom doesn't want them. I think that the Channel Fireball is willing to pay $1 for the Heart of Crans. Yeah, I actually sent off all our Heart of Crans to Card Kingdom, by the way, so I know a lot of you fans might not appreciate that I use Card Kingdom's buy list with the events that have occurred over the past month, but I mean, money's money. Whoever's going to pay me the most is going to get the cards. I don't think that my wallet has any ethical or moral value to it in that response. If I can benefit, I'm gonna go that route from it. So anyway. So here's kind of the trajectory of how February 20th when were these things actually spoiled? We still got out of these at 369, 252, 245, 245, 245, 240, 240, 240. And this is, for a card that is seeing this much play in the standard set, this is pretty low for trades. We saw a higher trade, I guess, in weeks of the past, but these last 30 days have been pretty dismal for a card like this being traded. So yeah, so I guess Cardsphere can chime in on that if this is low for a mythic like this, or if this is pretty normal. Who just sent me some cards too? I think I'm going to burn myself with giving such good deals. I'm trying to get my inventory up on Pauper decks. What did I just get? Oh wow, yep, okay, I need to take Pyroblasts off. Someone just sent me a ton of Pyroblasts. I needed them though, I needed them. Ugh. Good thing that Red Elemental Blast wasn't dumbed down to a common to make it so MTGO and Paper had the same rarity for Red Elemental Blasts. Womp womp. Other than, again, Pyroblast is just strictly better than Red Elemental Blast, for those of you that are wondering, because it can trigger off that prowess, and especially Pyroblast, I would say, because Thermo Alchemist and Firebrand Archer definitely want Pyroblast over Red Elemental Blast. Anyway, we'll keep Cardsphere up, but that is kind of the name of the game with the Challenger decks at the moment. So right there, you can evaporate over, I would say, half the value of the Heart of Crans, which is one of the big points from the Vehicle Rush, which is actually one of the big talking points of the Tellurian Community College video, that they, went from, this is going to be worth $10 for a playset of Heart of Crans. So we can chop off $10 right off the bat. My other kind of what I've been going on the Twitter tirade about is also, all this is going to do is just going to shift the value of cards to cards that people then need to pick up to make this a complete deck. This mana base is actually quite laughable because it is running the 4 Spire of Industries is going to give this deck some really, really awkward draws, rather than going for the Inspiring Vantage and the Concealed Courtyards. And I think that they should have gone all out on those before they tried to fill up Spire of Industries, as well as the Unclaimed Territory. It's actually okay, but sometimes you will get stuck with this Dwarf versus Artificer. That's the two things you would always name, because it can hit. Artificer can hit the Toolcraft Exemplar into the PNLR, where Dwarf can hit the Toolcraft Exemplar into the Veteran Motorist. So you kind of have to, usually it's going to be going for Dwarf, but you can see how this can, sometimes Unclaimed Territory isn't the right. There's a better option for it there. So let's go to paper prices here. That's a better way to, I don't know why the default on here is on the online. So anyway, let me get back to your comments. No ats. Try to at me. I can't read through the wall of text to try to figure out these. All right, Scrawn, you want to weigh in on this at all?
So I figure, so I'm heard loud and clear, right?
I think so. Everyone can hear Scrawn?
Cool. So, as I noted in the chat, Pauper Metagame and MTG Unpacked, they talk about people buying in at opportune times. And I think there is a reality of enfranchised players who like to play Standard but don't play every season, who will pick these up toward the end of a Standard season to complete collections.
Fair enough.
So they're happy. They're happy to trade for the rest that they need as it's on the decline, because these sets are rotating out. while they usually buy in for boxes of the latest sets.
And I guess it's a legitimate argument. Is anyone going to enjoy these? Absolutely, there are going to be people that enjoy these. I just want to be, again, the watchdog here. I want to be the ones calling out Wizards for why they design a product that didn't have any cards that last post-rotation. So we can go down the list and you can see that. It's glaringly obvious their intentions here. If you look at the Hazoret aggro, you get nothing from this deck that lasts besides whopping 4 Fanatical Firebrands. Womp, womp, womp. Oh, we got some Sentinel Totems too. Can't forget about the Sentinel Totems. So we have a value of a 15-cent common because that's the price of the weight to ship a card. That's why you always see cards at 15 cents. If you're going to put a stamp on a package, you can usually fit 8 cards in a package without USPS USPS flagging it down and make you put another stamp on it. And so therefore, to make it worthwhile, it's going to be about 15 cents per card. And that's why you always see those come out there. So nothing here. Abrade does see a little tiny bit of play in Modern from time to time. Hazoret and Chandra can see some Modern play, but they are very, very few and far between. I think Ponza every now and again will want Chandra. That's actually been replaced by Bloodbraid Elf. And Skred wants Chandra every now and again as well. And that's about it. Hazoret we've seen in a few decks. And the sideboard doesn't even give us anything. So we have on the Vehicle Rush even a more dismal outlook. You do have the Forest Spire of Industries, but this is going to massively kill the price of this for long terms. As well as you have a Dragon Skull Summit, which has had a bazillion reprints and having a hard time keeping its value anyways, as well as 3 Unclaimed Territory, which does have a lot of demand. Unfortunately, though, for Modern, this has been printed as a League promo, which there's tons of those out there. This is an uncommon in a first set, which is a bad sign for this card, and then everything else. Nothing else even sticks around. We go into the second Sun Control, same thing, you get to Settle the Wreckage. Woo. And we could go in the Counter Surge. Not only that, but they're even too lazy to get the lands that they want rather than the Foul Orchards. So this was, to me, just looks like the quintessential money grab to try to milk out some equity the same way those old dual decks were. So I don't know. It's, yes, people might actually play this and be happy with it, but are they going to be happy with it when there is no equity left in it? There are consequences for everything. When a product is printed, there's consequences. The average value of Iconic Masters when that set came out was actually pretty good, around $1,100. The Pack EV was right where you want it to be. I don't think a Pack EV should ever be above MSRP. It should be slightly below. That's the whole, gambling aspect to opening packs. If you look at standard packs, they hardly ever go above like $2, $2.25 EV for your estimated value you can get a pack. Yet people eat them up without complaints all day long. So
what I was thinking was the reason why they may be so conservative with their reprints is that this is the first time that any TCG or CCG, from what I can recall, has ever tried in terms of printing a competitive deck to sell to the market. So I think that they're kind of just testing the waters and seeing how the market will react, because let's just say that they reprint a bunch of valuable stuff in Ixalan or Rivals, and then that just has a really bad effect on the market. Like, I think that would be worse for Wizards in the long term. But on the other hand, I was also thinking that, sorry, I'm walking right now. That's pretty much my thoughts on it in terms of them being conservative with reprints.
Yeah, well, it's to me the whole thing just seems like that Wizards didn't want to they didn't want to kill their own equity. That's why there's not Vraska's Contempts in blatantly, obviously. I don't know there's a Counter Surge deck without 4 Vraska's Contempts in it these days. Oh, I missed the Walk the Planks, by the way. They're in here.
The other point that I was bringing up, this product looks like it was designed by their new competitive design team or whatever. And my guess is that this was probably in development at around the same time that they were discussing standard bannings. So I'm guessing that they chose decks that they predicted would survive a banning regardless of what cards would be banned. And they didn't want to make products or make decks that would, when the product is released are just garbage in the standard environment, and then have Event Deck 2.0, you know?
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the event decks in a second here, because that's what I'm already seeing some messages in chat saying that I'm missing the entire point. I would even say that there is no design in these decks whatsoever. So whatever about this playtester design team, I think that they're given a $100 budget and just took tier decks. I think this was actually right after the standard bannings is when they decided to have these decks. Probably going to see crappy quality in these, because that's a short time frame from these to get from production into. So they're going to use their secondary printer, which is the known issue for a lot of the card quality problems. Which was who was it? I was talking to Maddie on Twitter, how maybe Wizards in the future, if they're going to continue products like this, they need to have a first edition card, and then all reprints after that are different artworks. You can distinguish between something that came out of the actual booster packs for collectors and some that came out of supplemental products. I believe these will have the exact same.
That would be really cool.
These will have the same set numbers and everything, but they're going to be glossy. They're going to be poor quality. They're going to be not the same Magic feel. Remember the second wave of Fate Reforged and the second wave of Aether Revolt have a glossy, waxy feel to it. And collectors don't like them, but there's no way to how do you tell a seller they can't sell that version. So event decks, now we're talking about event decks, I think that some of the event decks have actually been home runs in the past. The Teamer deck from Fate Reforged I thought was insanely competitive. It actually did its job. It was a well-designed deck with low budget in mind. And that's what I would say that I could you remember the Teamer? It's a Teamer. It was a Teamer. Had a Rattleclaw Mystic in it. Had this Savage Knuckleblades in it. And it was a pretty well put together deck. But it just didn't have any value. And people cried bloody murder. So when people want to give me this myth that they don't care about the secondary market, they don't care about the value of cards, then how come these are such home runs and event decks in the past that did very well were such misses? I call BS. Everyone is in it for the money. This is almost like what I like to call cardboard communism, where it makes the little guy feel like that they all of a sudden get a bunch of value, but it's going to be an illusion of value when these aren't going to be worth anything. So the whole reason that Savage Knuckleblade just didn't see enough play comparative to the amount of people cracking up booster boxes to get those fetch lands, so the price of a Savage Knuckleblade was never worth any money. It wasn't really the deck's design's fault that a rare wasn't worth money. That was just the nature of the beast. Same thing with a lot of
the best creature in standard was Siege Rhino, and that was forever a $4 card because everyone wanted the fetch lands.
Yep, exactly. And they're being very disingenuous with this. A lot of people are just, my whole criticism with all the cheerleading behind this product is people cannot see the trees from the forest. They're just hyper focused on this value. Look, $30 for $82. However, when these finally come out, that gap's going to decrease even more. That I would even say that some of these weren't even worth that $30 purchase. What makes this even more of a problem, which I've said in the past, is I'm going to be able to get these for $16. And you think I'm not going to piece them out? You think me as a greedy speculator has access to unlimited supply of these? Most likely isn't going to continue to piece these out as long as it's profitable. The speculators is a home run for. It's going to be hard to move the cards in that time frame. But
you just got super easy access to Field of Ruin, and that's going to be probably a modern staple, I'm guessing. And all these other cards, like Hardy Kieran.
For as long as Jace is around,
so
it's going to be a huge staple.
Power Metagame states new players are happy. Some stores should get at least some for new players. Here's the problem. It's as far as getting these, you have to get them in sets. That's the big glaring issue with this. You can't order individual ones. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to have people, the Hazard deck's probably going to sell for over MSRP, and here comes the bloody murder. Here comes the people that are the ring that is going to occur because they can't get their Hazard aggro deck. Not only is this going to be not at local game stores, I imagine that this one is going to hold the value and it's going to be bought up at the Walmarts. So you're going to go to Walmart and you're going to see a bunch of Second Son controls sitting on the shelves, and then Walmart's going to get ticked, or the people, you know, that stock it, because what are we going to do with all these Second Son controls that aren't selling? It's going to be MindSeize 2.0. Where what I'm referring with that is with the Commander 2013, is you could go to any Walmart, any Target, and there would be a bazillion. What was the Naya one? The Naya one would be just stacks of Nayas, and the Aloro and MindSeize would be bought out, and then there'd be, maybe you could find the Prosh still, and the but just no one wanted them. No one wanted the non-MindSeize, and it made Wizards redo a print run at 3-1 with MindSeize. So. But the whole thing with new players is, I want to say that why doesn't, the whole problem with Wizards is I think that a lot of times they fail to be the adult. This is like Halloween. This is like all the trick-or-treat candy. Like the child wants to eat the candy right now, but someone has to be the adult and say, hey, maybe you should space this out, or otherwise you're going to get a stomach ache tomorrow. You're going to hate yourself in the morning. And this is exactly what this is going to cause. People are going to invest in these, and they're not going to be worth anything, and it's going to put a bad taste in their mouth. I'm not against... Let me just beat this in. I'm not against the idea of challenger decks. I'm against the idea of Wizards trying to reserve the equity of Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan, because they know that they can still eke money out of Vraska's Contempts being at $16 a piece. And while, you know, throwing this product that is going to lose all of its value, or near all of its value, within a mere 4 months after release. This, if there ever was something considered like a pump and dump, this is it. This is the also, if this would have came out in January, right before Rivals of Ixalan, I would have been perfectly fine with this. Is there any Rivals cards in these at all? I think it's all Ixalan cards, isn't it?
No, I don't think there's any Rivals.
Yeah, so maybe your theory is correct too, that they started designing these before Rivals, and they already got it to market. But,
hey, Kev, I got a couple of things from chat.
All right.
So I'm gonna. Chad Neary has a pretty simple one. Like, what would you do to improve challenge decks so don't tank prices? Also, make it worthwhile to players who buy it. I think that's. Like, I always want to throw in something there. I don't think that tanking prices is the huge problem with it. It is when the prices are being tanked. Like, if these are being tanked like right early on, then it just kind of adjusts the market for how all the pieces that aren't in it are going to play out. But as is, like, you're talking all the time about how it's just going to cause a huge spike in all these other products, or all these other cards that go into the deck that aren't in these challenger decks. They're going to spike up.
Yeah, that's gonna be one massive problem. Is there are some glaring holes with these challenger decks. And to answer Chad's question, just include Rivals of Ixalan cards. That's all. That's all that would have had to happen. In fact, they should have focused on Ixalan as the challenger deck. And that's how they used to do event decks. They took the equity usually came from the sets before that needed a reprint. I believe the event decks came out at a decent time frame, and then they included did the other ones even include like way back sets, or they wanted to focus on the more recent stuff? And that's exactly how these should be printed. Yes, they'll cut into the value of the boxes. Maybe it's time we go back to expeditions and stuff to get the value. Oh, I can't say that though, because everyone's already freaked out that boxes weren't worth it anymore because of expeditions. Well, why would we want to buy anymore? It's funny. See, that's a great example though of how the cheerleaders can turn on you so quickly, because everyone was just Battle for Zendikar. We want the expeditions. We want the expeditions. And then when it got to Our Devastation, quit trying to shove these down our throats. No one wants them. Everything's been a flip flop with this Magic the Gathering community. Everything. So,
to be fair, they released, like, I think it was from Battle for Zendikar to Amonkhet, if we're counting expeditions as masterpieces. I think the number of them in total is probably in the hundreds, if not like around 100 to 150. Like, it was just way too many, to the point where there was a bunch of shitty invocations in Amonkhet and Our Devastation.
And they were badly. Everyone hated how they looked. I think that was the bigger issue.
Yeah, and they look like ass. Like, maybe if Wizards just did, I don't know, 5 masterpieces per set instead of 20, they could have extended the life of that. I think the Challenger decks may have also been a response towards not doing masterpieces anymore because they wanted to use masterpieces as a way to boost standard sales. But now that that's pretty much out.
Yeah, Oath of the Gatewatch was a genuinely good set for drafting, though.
It had the expeditions had a negative effect on box sales, though, because people started getting upset because you couldn't get your value back unless you got an expedition. And so that was the murmurings around, not the MTG finance community. That was the murmurings around just the average casual. I'm trying to put 2 words together. Average casual player was bemoaning that they're not going to buy packs because it was a gamble. Because that's what expedition. It's just a simple law of economics. The price of a pack is never going to be greater, or the value of a pack is never going to be greater than the price of a pack. It can't be. Otherwise, greedy speculators such as myself will open up all day long until that is no longer the thing. There is no magic wand to kind of circumvent just economics, which is what I think that a lot of these casuals really are, desperately begging for. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense to everyone. So what other questions? What's some other...
Would you say this ties into, and I know I'm getting off track here, but would you say this ties into the $7 per pack versus $10 per pack for master sets?
Well, the master sets, people, I think that originally Wizards thought that foil was going to be able to distinguish. 1 foil per pack was going to be able to distinguish, and then everyone realized that, the foil market sets in normal sets, the foils can retain a good price because they're rare. When you dumb down the rarity of foils, they lose their specialness, completely lose their specialness. And if they know what's good for them, that's exactly how I would do it, is take away the foils out of the master sets and replace it with lands. And what I mean by lands, I mean lands, like not basic lands, lands that need a reprint. And then that works double duty. It gives people access to Modern, because there's no worse feeling than a new player having to buy land. It's land bases I can't sell. When I try to get people into that's one of the best selling points of Pauper, with exclusion of sometimes like Ash Barrens or now Snow-Covered Islands are expensive, is, well...
so like having a land at a rare, at a foil level?
When, especially Constant Darkir, everyone was so upset they had to buy all these fetch lands. And same thing with Modern. I don't want to spend money on this stupid land type thing. So that, they want to buy, they'll be okay buying their $20 dragon. They're not okay buying their $20 land. And so if anything needs to be reprinted into Oblivion, I think that should be, mana bases rather than...
Would you say when you're doing lands in the foil slot, are you talking about how they did in like Cons and Fate, where it was like a bunch of common lands and sometimes you'd get a fetch?
No. Oh, yes, exactly. So for the you could put, there's a lot of lands you could put in these type of slots. At I had a video on it back in the day. I think it was before Masters 2017, where I was talking about getting rid of foils, to where they put the Cons lands in there as the common slot. So most likely you just get the Cons 1 life, and then there'd be ones that at the uncommon, like that you'd get. So basically 3 out of 4 would be a Cons land, and then the next rarity would be, out of that last 1 out of 4 would be broken down in different rarities. A mythic, a rare, and commons had different likelihoods of showing up in that slot, and that would be a better way to and so people usually will get value out of that. At 1 out of every 4 packs will have a valuable land or near. I had a whole little breakdown. I'll have to find that video again that would make sense, and I even proved it would add more equity into the sets than a foil slot would. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Back to what was the purpose of the video. I was going to stream some Pauper today. Legit. You can even ask
Jose
Casey.
Israel, by the way.
What's that?
Yeah. Jose Israel has another thing.
Another question?
Yes. Yeah, you were so excited to do Pauper, then all of a sudden you're just DMing me about, no, I have to do this. I'm so mad right now.
Well, I don't like the spread of misinformation, and I don't like people bemoaning capital. I don't like people trying to have a magical way of how the world operates. Unfortunately, the world doesn't operate on sunshine and rainbows and people all helping each other and, hey, I got cards, you need those cards, right? I'm just going to give them to you. Capital is the great equalizer. Money is the great equalizer. If you have $1 and if I have $1 and you have something I want, we can make a trade. It's the answer to every of life's questions is money. I'm the biggest cheerleader for trade and capital and markets. It's the only thing that gets people to be even pro-social, in my opinion, and to try to ignore the just basic desire of humans, or the basic desire to acquire capital by humans, is just, it's for A, annoying, and B, it's just disingenuous. So
besides, this isn't even going to stop the speculators. They're just going to move to the cards that aren't in the deck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so let's
win.
talk about that for a second. So what am I, of course, buying into at the moment? I'm buying into the glaringly obvious card that they forgot to put in this deck, called Earthshaker Kenra. I don't know why Harsh Mentors are in here. It's more of a sideboard card than the... Harsh Mentor was pretty good when energy was the thing. Right now, it's actually not that great. Maybe they put it in because they're like, well, we need something that can dish off some damage every time Aethers for Harvester's activated, and for balancing these decks against each other, possibly. That's why they put it in here, because, again, I haven't played these decks against to see what the win percentage... someone actually should crack the math to see which one of these wins the most versus each other. But Earthshaker Kenner might have just fell flat for that reason. However, Earthshaker Kenner in the current meta wants to be in this deck. It's hard to find a particular list of Hazard aggro without Earthshaker Kenra. So what that's going to do is it's going to jump up the price, in my opinion, of Kenra's. Random idea what?
Random idea for a video. What if you did a series where you just beat other channels to it, where we just featured the decks facing against each other on MTGO? If
I wanted to be extremely boring, I would do that. I don't know. It just seems not boring to maybe people watching the content. I'd be bored out of my mind. That's my other... if you go watch my video on this, that's my other massive bitch about these. These are all... Every one of these decks, everyone is sick of playing against or playing. Who is going to sleeve this up that is a returning or a player that's actually been playing this and get excited about this?
You just market it for the new player. You market it for the player who is at Walmart and then they pull up Google on their phone or YouTube.
Well,
they're looking up results.
Talk about a hostile reception then. They come with Hazoret and you're like, oh God, this deck again? That's how you're going to greet your opponent. This deck again? It's funny. It's coming from the same company that just moans and moans about net decking to the point that they have to bully sites like Star City Games and MG Goldfish from actually publishing full data. Because they got to be for the diversity. We can't let the format be solved. Quit helping solve the meta. So what do? They take the solved meta and print it as a challenger deck for one last hoorah to try to get the last 4 or 5 months of standard to be. That's my other whine about this is wine. I've upgraded from bitch to wine. Is that usually standard is quite stale at this time anyway. Like people are already like, ugh, what's the point in playing standard? We have 4 months left of it. A new set is coming out, and we're not gonna. There's no point to even be playing standard.
Sorry, I didn't hear anything for the past 2 minutes. I muted myself and I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Fun stuff. At least you're not getting mugged in the street now.
Did you hear me say hello multiple times?
Just barely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, so where were we on this whole thing? Before I do want to get into some hilarious was there any other comments in the chat?
Yeah. Jose Israel, I have some things that are actually kind of interesting.
Okay.
He says, I'm yet to see people only mentioning value as the selling point. The selling point is that instead of getting an unplayable deck, get something that is playable and upgradable.
Okay.
Also, if the price of the cards are going to tank, it makes the natural upgrade cheaper as well.
Not the upgrades.
Yeah,
the upgrades. We're already seeing expensive cards. This is a direct reflection. These two cards... Find me a list that doesn't use this card for Approach the Second Sons.
I wanted to bring special attention to that second part because it feels like that is kind of missing the point of where the capital just shifts.
And you can say that maybe this isn't a direct response to the decks, this is probably going to get even more pronounced when the decks do come out. So because if anyone that wants to play this deck, this is a very needed card. And do you know what? Out of all the decks that I think they are the most complete, I actually think that the Approach the Second Sun deck is the most complete. It actually, but no one's going to want it because the value's not there. It's going to be the Teamer deck all over again. Those event decks usually were a good starting point for decks, and they were upgradable, and they were competitive. And I think people just forget about that. The problem with event decks too is some of the last ones were pretty bad. So people forget the ones that were okay. Event decks actually have a special place in my heart because they got me back into Magic. Which might sound a little bit hypocritical, everyone, here that I don't like these challenger decks. But the story with the event decks is my entire collection was stolen. I had about an $8,000 collection that was in my car, and we can victim blame me all you want and tell me I deserve to have my cards stolen, which people have told me in the past. But my dog was dying of cancer. I needed to come up with money, and so I was going around from store to store to try to get quotes on how much they'd buy my collection for, or pieces of my collection. And in the same day, I also had a vet appointment. So I had taken my dog around with me and rolled down the window. So it was, I think it was early spring, but still, the dog needed to have some air. And then I'd come home, parked in my driveway, and just through of course, when there's a heavy heart type situation, your mind doesn't operate the best. Forgot about the cracked down window, parked in my driveway, mind you, which has a gate, and forgot about the backpacks that are in my car. And the next morning, someone had broken or had gotten to my car and stolen my collection of cards. And so it was the event deck, the Birthing Pod event deck from, I can't remember what set that was. Maybe New Phyrexia, maybe it was a set after that. Maybe it was the event deck for Innistrad, I believe, that was coming out that time period, or something along that lines. That had
Which event deck was it?
It had the Birthing Pod in it. And it was going for dirt cheap because no one wanted it, because everyone wanted the one with 2 Inkmoth Nexuses in it, because Birthing Pod wasn't worth anything. But it was a very, very competitive deck. It had a Birthing Pod.
That was Dark Ascension, I believe.
So, okay. So I bought a couple event decks for low because they weren't selling, and got some Birthing Pods, and had a Restoration Angel because my friend had called me up and paid for my pre-release. So one of my friends had said, "Hey, just come play the pre-release. I know your collection was stolen. Come play the pre-release." So I went and played the pre-release. So I had a pre-release Restoration Angel, I believe, or whatever the Restoration Angel was from. So I had this like little janky Birthing Pod deck that I was able to get some splicers with, and ended up actually winning every FNM of the entire Lingering Souls promo.
Here, I left you a link for it. Spiraling Doom is the name of it. And yeah, this thing is freaking wicked. I remember this thing.
The problem is it didn't have value, and so people whined about it. And that's why it has
acidic slime and perilous mirror.
I'm calling BS that it's the cards and the competition that is attracting people to this. BS, 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 BS. It is this value, this supposed value, the $30 cards. It's cardboard communism that people want. This is the attracting factor. 30 for 81. I must have. They could have put a janky ass. They could have put Scarab Gods in a deck without ways to cast Scarab God, and people would want it because of the value. So I am not buying this. It's a competitive nonsense because we've had these in the past. This deck had 3 skin renders, Acidic Slime, Bloodgift Demon. It's got a decent little curve here. Up to Mirror Battlesphere. Definitely upgradable, had the 4 String Group Guys, so at least it gave you, see, the decks ran off the 4. This was how the deck won. 4 String Group Guys and 4 Young Wolves were able to compete with the other decks of trying to outvalue you. Also had the Verdant Emissary. This was also a card in the deck at the time period. So it had the bases, and a lot of times you can do this with decks. You can get the competitive edge. I proved it with only playing commons and uncommons at my local game store, and people complained that I won all the FNMs, so I dumbed myself down and built commons and uncommon decks, and still was very competitive. Had the Doom Blades, had the 2 Birthing Pods in here, and it was very upgradable. Got some value here, and with just some smart upgrades by getting rid of all this nonsense and putting in a few splicers here and there, it was able to be a very competitive deck for a cheap price. So I don't think that these had horrible deck designs in the past. They just had horrible value in the past to detract people from actually wanting to buy them. Because who wants to buy a product that has less value, or only more value if you add up all of the kind of trash? So you get like $45. Probably when this deck came out, it was worth like $45 for what? These used to go for like $25, I believe, or $20 a piece. So anyway, that is that.
All right, so Jake Kenny asked, did Rogue ever say something about how Wizards went back to doing F&M promos?
Yeah, well, they're going back to F&M promos, which I think is a mistake. They need to just get rid of F&M promos altogether. They need to go to a player reward system and utilize the local game stores to divvy out the player rewards. That way, the people that actually played events can get cards they want, not just get a random F&M promo. So have Cryptic Command as text list again. Have a bunch of other cards comparable like Judge Foils that are on this player reward list of cards you can get, but you have to cash out your player rewards. And you do that through points people earn on the the Wizards Play Network. We have a whole point to the Planeswalker points
Adam
page.
Daly.
Hey, Adam. Appreciate the donation.
You said the right phrase. Player rewards.
Player rewards, yep. And then you can get what you want rather than, like, a lot of people also don't. The vast majority of cards come back to me. And I don't even know if I can technically even do this. I think it's against what Wizards wants to do. Uh-oh, I'm reporting myself here. I don't think the stores are supposed to buy back F&M promos until a year after the fact. Or you can't, like, resell them because they want to stomp out the corrupt stores, which they're never going to do, because you can go on right now and find standard Showdown packs on eBay by these fake stores. It's not the fake stores are the big issue with a lot of the economics with a lot of the market problems with standard and F&M promos and things like that, because they actually don't get into the hands of the players. They just get in the hands of people that are these fake stores that then I saw one in St. George. There's a store in St. George, Utah that claims they do F&Ms. However, the only Magic cards they have in stock is booster packs and F&M promos. Not kidding. And how they sell them is they sell them in packets of F&M. Like, so they've ripped open these packets of F&M promos and then repackaged them as like their own little booster packs of F&M promos. Never got to the players' hands. Were never given out. And, they keep still claiming that they are, firing F&Ms and whatnot. So those are the things, if Wizards really wants to make a difference, is that. And if they can police the players' rewards, they can do it correctly. And we don't have to get these garbage common and uncommon foils that may be hit or miss. Also, I think it's an unrealistic expectation to require Wizards to have a magic ball of which cards, which uncommons and commons are going to see play. Other than that, then they're going to have to dip into modern. They're going to have to dip into known cards. They're going to be able to hold value. So, or we'll have the same issue with things just rotating too quickly. Anyway,
Jojo Jimby mentions that there are at least 2 fake stores that are just playing the system to get promos and stuff.
Yeah, I know of stores that just open up multiple locations. I know of stores that don't have any play space, or they consider having a table. So they'll set up some tables, and then there's our play space, but it's not comfortable or feasible that you would ever have people there. So then they just fold up the tables during regular business hours. So if anyone wants to play at our store, technically we can, have people we can sit down a table. But, my whole store, I would say, so surface area of my store, the 2 rooms versus 1 room is play area. And our big room is play area. I think everyone's seen this store before, and it's what we have to do just to comfortably seat people that want to actually play. And all right, Jack, why doesn't Wizards care about Sports and More? Because in my opinion, Wizards is directly in cahoots with Sports and More, because they're very good at distributing products. And same thing with Massdrop. Massdrop actually sponsors the Pro Tour now, which is just as big of a player as Sports and More, with just quantities of product getting into the hands of consumers. Even David Adams is starting to look insanely suspicious to me with the prices they're able to sell at. So yeah, that's when I talk about markets and capitalism. That's not capitalism. That is the definition of a kind of cronyism of people getting around what is supposed to be established a fair marketplace thing and making getting in bed with companies, or companies getting in bed with the government, and making it so the rest of people. A good analogy of this is a person can't even go and start a lemonade stand these days because they'll get feed to death or regulated to death before they could actually make profit off lemonade. So the only person that can literally produce lemonade these days are massive corporations. So therefore we'll never see a lemonade stand. And it's kind of the same thing which is happening to Magic the Gathering, is the only people that are going to be able to survive within the next decade are going to be these mass sellers on eBay, these Sports and Mores, these David Adams, these huge chains
Rudy,
that are able to do that to a point. But I think even his days are numbered.
Yeah, because he focuses on sealed product, and we all know the direction sealed product's going.
Well, Rudy is able to apply sound financial advice, and one thing that sets Rudy aside from someone like me, especially like me, is I started with a person in massive debt because of poor past choices in life to try to grind out a living. Whereas Rudy came from a background of where he had already made his small fortune and then used that. It's kind of the whole joke about Trump, where everyone likes to say, oh, my small $1 million loan from my father, where the rest of us are like, oh, my kid. If I ever was able to touch $1 million, my life would have been a lot different. The things I could have pursued. Whereas, that's if people do have a little bit of an argument against today's day and age in our capitalistic society, is just look how much money you have to go into debt to even get an education or even begin to get a good job that starts paying it back. Look at my father, for example. He was in over $200,000 of debt by the time that he graduated from medical school. I don't even want to know. Like, that would have given me the biggest panic attacks ever, thinking that if I would have failed or got sick or anything, that I would have had that much money that I would have to somehow pay back. There was no option for me to change careers at that point. I would have to be a doctor, and that would have been the most unsettling. So again, there's definitely, if people want to argue about our current social structure on how capital is acquired, I'm definitely all ears, but it's hard for me to be an anti-capital person.
Hey, while you're talking about your story of your life and everything, Horsey, not a knight, wanted to say that your story is sad. I mean, it's not your fault, even if you didn't have to deal with doggo issues.
Oh, getting my card stolen. It was awful. It was also in a very chaotic time period of my life. I just quit my job to pursue.
Dog love is best love.
To pursue. So I'd saved up money. So first of all, my ex left me in a ton of debt. That's why we linked my second channel that I started to create, which I don't know if I'm going to do anything with, to talk about my experiences with borderline personality disorder and psychology, because I think it has a lot to do with who I've become as a person. But it wasn't without. I'm glad that I've been able to mature and become the person that I've become today, but it wasn't without massive cost. And one of those costs was financial cost. With those $500 nonsense ER visits add up. Just to get in an ambulance costs a lot of money, especially when it's for superficial things like scratching your arms up. So I was in a ton of debt after the relationship finally dissolved, and I had to scratch myself out of that debt, as well as save up for, like, I didn't like being a forklift operator. It was a living hell. It paid well. It was a steady, safe job. I knew what was expected of me. But for me, as a social person, driving a forklift for 9-10 hours a day was my idea of hell. And I was an unhappy person, so I saved up and wanted to become a personal trainer, and had enough money to live on for a while, at least a few months before I made that transition. And then after that collection was stolen, and after my dog got cancer and then eventually died from it, which was a heartbreaking story too, because he survives. Actually, we don't even know if it was malignant. He just had a tumor, and we thought he was going to survive. But post-operation, maybe it was a blood clot, maybe it was just too weak to recover from the operation. He died 2 days later. So it was just the worst ending to a chapter, and it was it just killed my self-esteem and whatnot. So anyway, don't feel sorry for me now. It's way in the past. It's all led up to where I am today in a way. So who knows what would have ended up happening if none of those bad things would have happened. I'm not wishing them for them to happen, but I'm proud what I've been able to accomplish. And Zach was in a very similar situation. So we've been able to.
One more thing about your story is Mac Bowler says, I thought Blade Splicer intro deck brought you back into Magic, Kevin.
Well, Blade Splicer was in that deck. Blade Splicer was going for, I believe it was an event deck before that. For whatever, or an intro pack. Blade Splicers
yeah, it was the intro rare.
It was insanely cheap to buy Blade Splicers. And so I was able just to pick up a played set of Blade Splicers and throw it into the Birthing Pod deck. So I bought 2 of the Birthing Pod decks using store credit, I believe, to get those. And what am I being notified as? Is that just followers? And I'm watching my own. Oh, subscribes. Appreciate all the people that are subscribing. Anyway, where was I at? Yeah, so I took those 2 decks, bought two event decks, got the 2 Birthing Pods out of them. Because again, at the time, they were actually worthwhile to buy into, and just to start as starting points, and that was that. And then bought the remainder of the pieces and was able to be very competitive. But it took creativity and it took ingenuity to do so. It wasn't just this kind of like slap in the face to people trying to be creative. Here's your deck. This is what you're going to buy, and this is what you're going to require to upgrade this deck. 4 Earthshaker Kenras. Get rid of these lousy shocks and put more braids in, right? They run? They probably run shocks and magma sprays. It's been forever since I looked at this list, though. But I mean, this Hazard aggro, for example, just looks like a half-seas deck of either going to big red or going full aggro. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like, hey, we'll give you a Chandra and a Glorybringer if you want to use them. But here's the Hazard. You need 3 more of these, though. You also need Earthshaker Kenras. Womp womp.
Also, you got a couple of people talking about how you're getting called out on our Magic or something. You have at least 2 people I noticed.
Where am I getting called out? Let's find it. Which one is it? Am I on Magic TCG?
Yeah.
Where's it at? Link it. Armchair economists claim to know better than Hasbro's team of professionals. This is a beautiful little. Here, let's have some fun and let's read some tweets. If you have any questions, let's get them queued up, and then we'll try to do a Q&A later on. And then I'll get back to the purpose of this video. I don't know how I get sidetracked, because this is sidetrackdeckbuilder.net.
And also check the comments on Professor Brian's vid.
We will. We'll get to him. We'll get to the professor's video here in a second.
Mutant Bandhammer says, I want to pay attention to our Magic. It's trash.
Well, our Magic is the biggest echo chamber ever. I am constantly banned or suspended from that whenever I try to post anything, whether it be a comment, whether it be a legit video that I produced, whether it be anything, I get banned all the time from our Magic TCG. You can't even mention my name there without getting downvoted into oblivion. In fact, it's bled over to other subreddits like, what do you want, Chloe? I'm being licked Magic, like, I'll be in other random subreddits and people will downvote it just because it's me, whether not even taking into account what I'm actually saying. But yeah, I love this little right here. Armchair economists claim to know better than Hasbro's team of professionals. What professionals? What professionals? Source, please. So people that graduate with education degrees are they're professionals.
Get paid for it.
They're Gavin Verhey's that are pro players that turned into, oh, we like you. You're a cool pro player. We're going to hire you on in Magic and give you look at Magic Online. That was, Blame Worth became a meme because of all the horrible decisions Worth Warport would make because he was not qualified for his job. He was a pro player gifted a job as it's almost like Magic was embarrassed that their ability to actually pay the pros was awful, that instead they offered them jobs. But then what that really takes away is like people that are actually qualified to do the damn job. So source, can we please have the source for team of professionals? Can someone link me their credentials? Because that's been the problem with Magic for the past 10 years is the lack of professionals. And the people from that were hired to manage a subreddit that were bullied, so they put them in creative writing. Oh, please, please, professionals, link their credentials. I don't have any credentials in. I don't have an economics degree either. I'm not saying that you necessarily need to have that, but I've been a player in the Magic the Gathering finance community for quite some time, and that $8,000 collection was also grind from nothing to $8,000. I have not spent money on Magic in years because I make money doing so. Whereas I know people that spend thousands of dollars on similar collections, or are net down, are definitely net down every standard rotation, not net up. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, we'll read over these comments. People they can argue with me. You can throw every ad hominem attack at me. But debate the ideas here of what it is. Like, what of my arguments aren't sound? If people wanted their value, why aren't Rivals of Ixalan and Ixalan cards included? If people wanted something that will last a shelf life longer than half a year, why wasn't this something that was the turn of the year rather than just looking like a cash grab to squeeze any little bit of equity out of Chase Mythics? Anyway, let's get me ranting. I like this. This
Austin Roycer says he found the comment. If you want to admin him, so you can link it.
All right, go for it. I guess I could just search for Rogue Deck Builder.
You could.
Rogue. Oh, I've just found a bunch of Blizzard stuff.
You got it. In the chat.
All right, so not only do the original Reddit threads have tons of people screaming about how they were upset about reprints because of their investment, but there's plenty of MTG Finance names. First of all, you know what? Let's just get rid of this MTG Finance nonsense here, because yes, I would consider myself an MTG Finance person, but I'm not a person that doesn't play the game. I am involved in this community and entrenched in this community as much or more. I am the 1% or the 0.1%, to the point that I love this game so freaking much that I started a local game store in a city that cannot support a local game store. And the only way that we are actually surviving at this local game store is Zach is busting his ass off to, putting away his own quality of life to run this damn place, and B, we make sound financial decisions to keep this afloat. People have tried stores in this area and have failed miserably because you cannot make any mistakes and stay afloat in the sort of economy that we have and the population we have here in Richfield, Utah. So yes, I'm a finance person, but it's out of necessity, not out of, well, and I do. We've talked about my past in like World of Warcraft, how I like to run the markets there, and it's something that is a hobby for me. However, I am as much of a player as anyone else. I am a Pro Tour competitor. I played in a Pro Tour. I won my very first PTQ that I ever played in. And it was by trying to just metagame the modern meta at that time, and it was correct. I made the correct call for that tournament. So I don't want to. Yeah, it's always she just linked all my Twitter statuses. Cool, you get 49 points to a tool. It's literally tools in the name. I guess Toosley. Okay, so not only did the original Reddit threads have tons of people screaming about how they were upset about reprints because of their investments. Source, please? Because actually, when the Challenger decks were spoiled, the MG Finance was all for them. They all loved them. There's actually the minority of people that were upset. And let me also give a disclaimer one last time. I own 0 Chandras and Hazrets that are not in decks. We sold them at like a smart investor at the last Pro Tour where they actually saw standard, where there was a standard spotlight. I identified, even made a Market Monday video about how you shouldn't be investing in any old cards because they're not going to get one last hoorah spotlight in Rivals of Ixalan. And inevitably, the shelf life of Magic cards before they start hitting that decay of rotation happens at the start of the year. Even if a deck all of a sudden comes out of left field and is this like massively, we're seeing one already, but is Electrostatic Pummeler going anywhere? No, because Electrostatic Pummeler is rotating. So no one's going to want to invest in Electrostatic Pummelers because a deck all of a sudden, the climb the Hadana's Climb is starting to see a lot of streams and as starting to get some decent finishes. No one's touching it because of rotation. So I didn't lose anything from these. These challenger decks, I have none of these cards. We sold out of this card. And it was funny because we got a ton back in, so we actually are fully stocked again with Glint Sleeve Siphoners. But we sold all Glint Sleeve Siphoners. Every single one of our copies of Glint Sleeve Siphoners, I sold out on Pro Tour Ixalan. Same thing with these, just held no value, so we didn't sell any. I sold all our Rishkars. Walking Ballista has legacy playability, so we kept those. But again, we didn't have a lot of stock of those to begin with. I was waiting until rotation to actually invest in Walking Ballista. This is actually going to give me a nice little outlet. Other than I think that this card actually could go up in value because this is another deck that needs 4 of, or at least 3 of, to make this deck function. However, they put the Verter Gearhulks rather than a card they actually need in this particular, because they didn't want to maybe jeopardize that equity that Walking Ballista can get them in a commander deck coming up, or a modern Masters set coming up in the near future. So again, if anyone wants to be crying about evil speculators or evil market manipulators, this should be Wizards, because this was calculated. This was all calculated to make sure it doesn't hurt their bottom line in any way, and be able to, their value was already claimed by all these cards. They were getting nothing. This is a secondary market that had any little bit to gain from these reprints. So yeah. All right, we'll go back to this. So, all right. This takes me like an hour to get through one paragraph. This is one example. He is a fairly outspoken financier with a lot of followers and a big YouTube channel. Am I really big? I don't feel 30,000 is nothing. It's Magic the Gathering for you. It's just anyway. I'm not linking his videos because I don't want to give him views. Okay, so you're going to link my Twitter, so you're going to give me Twitter views. But here are a very small sampling. No, this ass doesn't represent all of MTG Finance, but I seldom see MTG Finance tell him to shut up. It's because I'm not involved in the MTG Finance communities a lot, because I disagree vehemently with a lot of the ways that they try to go about doing it. A lot of MTG Finance are still stuck on like Modern. They're still stuck on seeing these big gains on when the modern metagame shifts and things like that. I think that was another time period that is too volatile for today's day, where I am more on Pauper and more on Commander at this point for the things I invest in. I'm not digging up every single thing he has said and done, but you literally dig up every one of my tweets that were all in one chain of a tweet, dude. Every one of those was in just one chain. And I went on a huge rant and used his considerable platform to endlessly trash challenger decks. Saying no one is bitching about these is baloney. Plenty of people, big and small, were. Where? Source. Because again, if we go over to MTG Finance community, everyone does feel a little bit like slighted by TCZ's video, because the majority of people in MTG Finance have loved these challenger decks. They're going to be a great opportunity to make money. Plenty of people, big and small, were, but overall general players are very happy. People who buy out cards aren't. Wrong. This is a great opportunity to buy out some easy specs. All right. Hey, thank you, whoever this Sisvian is. The person you linked isn't. I like your 1 point. Here's your 1 point. You get an upvote here versus this Tool's 49 points. Here. He hasn't complained about Wizards releasing a product for people trying to get into Standard that only lasts 6 months until they become worthless because of rotation. Please do research on someone before you form your opinion, and I think is what I suppose, and try to put them on blast. All right. Anyway, thank you for that link. Let's go over, though. What is it, though, that now is going to be... The Tournament Community College thing is that people were upset with the calling out MTG Finance specifically, saying that MTG Finance is ruining the game. So let's find that video real quick. I think it's right here. With the Tournament Community College. Hey, how does this...
Can I bring up something on the side? He's being a lot more aggressive. Have you noticed, like, towards pretty much everyone?
Well, it's just let's call it out. What is the attack in the video on the specific person linking on Twitter? Who is he talking about there? Can we be real here? Who is the one person that has been laughing about Pauper?
How many gushes do you have?
Well, the thing is, I don't think I did gush, but I've done almost every other card.
And so what does he have sleeper agents following you? Does he have a sleeper account following you?
No,
or something?
Turning Community College followed me for the longest time. He hasn't unfollowed me. Just for all the viewers here that may not know the story, there is bad blood between me and Turning Community College because as a champion, where's Anu Vlad here to argue about Myers-Briggs with me? Okay, the thing is, like, my personality type, it's very telling if you actually go and look at the characteristics of what they call an ENFP or the champion. We value relationships above everything in life. So, like, if you look at like people that are more like ESTJ or ISTJ, they'll value duty or responsibility or being a good citizen over everything else. My value in life is personal relationships. When I make a friendship with someone, it is very, very tough for me to break that friendship. I will try and let bygones be bygones as much as possible. It's hard for me to stay angry for a long period of time unless I do feel really betrayed or cut, and then I usually go on full blast because I cannot stand it when I feel like I got to that point with someone and they throw that out. They completely forget about the long past that led up to the relationship and just look at the itty bitty what would have slided them in the recent. So what ended up happening with that whole relationship is we collaborated on a video for a deck called the Mono Red Infection. But right before that, I did a video called More Hostility in the Magic the Gathering Community, which got a lot of negative response, got me outed as an MRA, and told that I am a toxic member of the Magic the Gathering community. In fact, there's an entire Reddit thread about how I was a toxic member of the Magic the Gathering community. Had people like, the Ilion TV and other people make some strong words in my direction for MRAs should not be tolerated in the Magic the Gathering community, which, again, I don't even identify as an MRA. I just, have my own past of being a male and having a judicial system that doesn't give a crap about my experiences. That was just, I could have gone to jail over the slightest infraction, whereas my abuser, nothing ever happened. Nothing ever was going to happen. She could have killed me and nothing would have happened.
So what you're saying is you're a rape apologist.
Oh yeah, well there was that too because of the Zach Jesse whole thing. But anyway, so we're gonna go. We're going further ahead. There was no problems with that collaboration. We'd been Tony Community College and I had been friends for quite a while. We'd sent merchandise back and forth. He has my private phone number. I have his private phone number. We talk on Skype. Blah blah blah. Met up at a GP. So I thought at this point, we were pretty close. So then. He leaves that collaboration with, hey dude, we gotta do this again soon. So soon for me is soon. Soon's not, way in the past. So I had another idea for another good video. Mind you, at that point, I believe my Mono Red Infection was the best a video had done for like a guest deck tech out of all of the videos that had been. His other videos on product reviews have been done had higher view counts and higher. So it's just something that I thought was very mutual beneficial for both of our channels. I got to kind of be the brainchild for a video. And at the real good, I got like 2,000 followers from doing that video. It was incredible, and it was just a good experience all around. And then lo and behold, so I just noticed that we're not talking anymore. He's not responding to things that messages and stuff like that. And so finally, I basically Skyped him up and say, hey, I've got an idea for a video. And what do you think about it? And he's like, oh, well, I'm not going to do it because I only allow one video per creator. And so I was like, well, what do you mean? I see all these other collaborations with bazillion other creators that you've had spotlighted on. And then it was just the way that he answered that I knew something was up. And lo and behold, then I start getting screenshots from people that hate me telling me, hey, look, even Clarence College doesn't like you. Go kill yourself, basically, is what these screenshots were of. And there was a screenshot by someone that sent me that was basically laughing at me because they had Clarence College in one of his video responses basically say that he won't collaborate with me again and he was wrong to collaborate with me in the first place. And so, of course, that was taken as the biggest slight ever. And I reached out to Kevin Soffels, Darium CCG, and said, hey, I need to apologize to you because I think I bet on the wrong horse while sticking up for kind of the TCC Mana Source crowd rather than, you know, looking at the entire facts with the drama that was going on with that. Darius felt that that was a funny thing, that it was good ammo to throw back in their face, so he sent my private message to Tulare Community College, and then Tulare Community College reached out to me and basically spent an entire 2 hours lying to me on Skype about how he never said he would never collaborate, or there wasn't anything going on behind, you know, closed doors with it. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked on this long ass story, but I think it's pertinent to everything that's going on now. Maybe it's not pertinent. Maybe I'm just bringing up old nonsense. But, you know, I value relationships over, you know, petty disagreements, especially if it's like political things, or I feel like I'm a type of person that can still be friends. I think it's been out of a necessity, and living in this area, a very, you know, conservative Mormon area, to be able to be friendly with people even though I vehemently disagree with
what if they're a weeb?
Unless you're a weeb. If you're a weeb, you're dead to me. No weebs allowed. I'm just kidding. I'd have to close my store down, because that's all we have is weeb sleeves in now, because they're the only things that sell at Gone Rogue Weebs. So we need to change our store name to Gone Rogue Weebs, because that's my clientele. Ugh.
No,
anyway,
call it Gone Weeb Games.
Gone Weeb Games? Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
That's all we sell is weeb playmats, and
You're selling a body pillow.
So you were
for
getting
Christmas.
sidetracked.
So I'm getting sidetracked on the drama with stuff. So
about Tulare Community College, you were talking about intention, or
so anyway,
whatever
yeah.
with
So
them.
this video, of course, now if you go through the video, and at the end of the video, it's calling out empty finance. Let's skip to that. Let's go and find that video. And we'll do what Casey hates the most and skip ahead on videos with bad editing.
Well, this is live, so you get a free pass.
So I get a free
this time.
pass on lives. Hey, we have to watch a League of Legends add even more salt to the wound. Screw this game. Skip this ad. What a terrible game. All right, so it's on here. And most of the stuff, again, I don't really have an issue with.
What's your PO box, by the way?
MSRP of the Challenger decks.
What's that?
What's your PO
It's
box?
in the description, isn't it?
All
You're
right.
not sending me a body pillow. I guess Chloe can have a new body pillow. Well,
I'm
Chloe,
trying to get
you
people
wanna-
to send you.
You want a weeb body pillow, Chloe? Is that something you would? Apparently, my sister got Scout a toy duck that squeaks, and he played with it for an entire day, not figuring out that it squeaks, and then just squeaked it, and now is terrified of the duck.
That isn't the
Anyway.
point. That's not what they were made to do. These aren't a product for you. They are not
All right.
us. Wants to play standard at an suck for the
And
MTG.
again, I'll go back to Scrawn. If these do bring new players to the game, sure. Unfortunately, I think that, again, that doesn't, it doesn't, being okay in one, or being positive in one aspect, does not make up for the glaring problems with the design of these, and just the intentional money grab, which I think Wizards of the Coast is trying to do. And the thing is, that's why I hate the way that it's packaged. It's trying to package like, look, we at Wizards of the Coast, we listen, and we want to give you a gift. So here's your gift. But all it's really doing is lining their pockets with, again, their last hoorah at this equity. If they really wanted to give us a gift at their cost, they would have included cards that would stay past rotation. But they aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to do so.
Prices for those cards
All right.
that already have your standard decks. Remember, it's connected to other things as well. Just as
Blah,
the person
blah,
who
blah,
buys
blah.
a Commander precon, 3-point products mean even more activity in that greater ecosystem of Magic the Gathering. Chandra,
Okay. Oh, let me go through this because this is a huge pet peeve as a store. Huge pet peeve is people saying, "Well, you should just sell stuff really, really cheap because then people will come into your store and they'll buy snacks." Crickets, because snacks like really keep our
Talk
store
about
in
it.
business. Like, ooh,
Magic Tabletop Girls.
people
Is that
come
who
in
you're
and buy me they buy snacks. Yay! The money I just got from the Snickers bar is going to keep my lights on. It's the biggest. It's all about margins. I had this discussion with Zach too because we want to like reduce the price of Iconic Masters, and it breaks my heart I can't do this. But if there's a quicker way to put myself out of business, it's to order my locals cheap cards, cheap prices on. The problem with, and by even admitting this, people are gonna, boycott my store now. I can't give my locals the same deal I can give the internet. The reason why is I have a finite amount of money that I can get in Richfield, Utah from my clientele. They have a finite amount of money that they are going to spend on games. I need to get as much of that in profit as possible to stay afloat. The internet, it's a whole different ballgame because the internet is kind of like an infinite revenue stream. So therefore, if I can make $2 or $5 on a product, then yes, I'm going to make $2 or $5 on a product. If Masters 25 is only able to be sold at $75, I might as well make that, $40, $30 after eBay fees, rather than not make that sale. However, if I do that at my store and I offer $175 for Masters 25, all I am doing is competing with myself. And therefore, that money, that $175, which would have made me a net of something like $100 if I was selling singles, or $90 if I was selling sealed product, has now been reduced to that $45 margin, which is not going to be able to keep the store afloat if that's all the money that I can get. It's all about the margins when you're running a local game store. And so it's one of those games you have to play perfectly while not pissing off your locals and still being able to make online sales. So this whole nonsense of you should just sell sealed product really, really cheap so people will come to your store. And then when you're in their store, they're going to buy snacks. There's not enough snacks I can sell. I'd have to do not understand the table space that I'd have to be able to where people are constantly buying snacks or accessories to make it worthwhile. Just get a bag of holding. Everything that I sell here needs to have margins because I only get that finite. They come with $20 to spend on stuff. I'm only going to get that $20. I can't compete with myself. That people have to get that into their head of how that works in the retail world. All right.
Play standard. It's connected to other things as well. Just as the person who buys a Commander precon then will look to upgrade that precon buying.
Hey, you're interrupting the professor. How dare you? Shut thy mouth. I'm going to mute you.
Singles and accessories for their Commander deck, maybe building their own, a second deck after getting hooked on the format. So too will these entry point products mean even more activity in that greater ecosystem of Magic the Gathering.
So I think what this is a little bit of admitting too, that stores don't, it's not just speculators that lose out. What about all the stores that had 8 Chandras in stock or 8 Heart of Karans in stock? Their value also just got decreased by the same amount of value. What about the collect, like your average Joe that already spent the money on buying? How about the people that invested in Heart of Karans the week before these were announced? Don't they feel a little bit like stabbed that now they have no value in their cards if they were to get out of the deck? And so where's our loyalty to? New players that currently don't play, or people unwilling already to enter a format, or people that have already been in a format and figured out a way to make it happen? I don't know. Either way. It's kind of a moot argument to me because it's a dog eat dog world to be out there. You can't please anyone. So any action is going to displease someone else. So I don't really feel for the collector that had their cards reprinted, or the standard player with their Heart of Karan decks that had their. Again, if people thinking that I invested in any of these cards, they are very misguided. I lose no equity at all. Nothing in my store goes down except for ones I just had in decks, lying around in decks here and there. But anyway, so basically what the point that the professor is trying to make here is that people will come in now to standard, and while they're there, maybe they'll buy a pauper deck. Maybe they'll play in the draft. So you're going to get all this money from people coming in from these challenger decks that they bought at Walmart. That's yet to be proven. And I don't think that that's going to have that effect. I don't think that that's going to be as profound or pronounced actually as people are. It's an up in the air thing. It's never happened before. We're gonna have to wait and see. So it's like counting your chickens before they hatch, making a prediction solely on what ifs rather than on the blatant evidence that we have right now. So I'm just gonna continue this here.
Chandra went from $40 to $20 because there's going to be thousands of new standard players picking up her precon deck.
All right, Chandra going from $40 to $20. Chandra was headed that way anyways. It's rotation time.
But that also means there's going to be thousands of new standard players. They're going to up...
Source, please? Source, please? is that what is really stopping people from coming in and playing Magic was the $30 difference between what this deck is going to get them. Because by the time this is going to release, that's going to be the margins between the $30 deck they have to buy and the $60 worth of cards that are contained in it.
Upgrade these. They're going to buy singles from their respective local game stores, maybe getting hooked and looking to build a different standard deck or a new one when the next set comes out, or they'll stick around for the 7 o'clock draft after.
Do you know what kills my standard environment more than anything? More than anything, year after year? Rotation. In fact, that's why Wizards had to backpedal on the early rotation, because everyone got so ticked off that their cards didn't retain value for enough time period that they weren't going to invest in standard after standard. There is a actually pretty robust modern scene here. They don't play at my store because they're all ticked at me, but they swear by modern because they don't have to reinvest in cards over and over and over again. So this fact that I don't see this being relevant here, that people are going to buy these decks and be like, ooh, standard was so fun for 4 months. Oh, but now these cards aren't standard, so I'm going to buy in again. Or actually have to wait for right before rotation again before they'll release these other pre-constructed decks in April of 2019 with all cards that are rotating. Yay!
Standard. They're buying card sleeves from those stores and sodas to drink and playing in the in-store league and commander groups and building up towards formats like Modern. It means a vibrant and healthy Magic ecosystem at all levels.
I gotta address a comment. So my Modern players are ticked to me over a conspiracy theory, and again, I've gotten into it before. They can. They never supported the store anyway, and they were big. They were a huge detraction to new players. You know what kills standard more than anything? Spikes. That's what kills standard, is people playing specific, really spiky, unfun decks to play against and rules lawyering the entire night. That's what kills standard. That's what kills local game store attendance.
For players
but didn't you
and the
steal
stores,
their
everyone wins except.
Well, it was over Fatal. The whole thing was that they thought that Zach was stealing the Fatal pushes, and that was the whole thing. And it's you got to just understand Richfield, Utah. It's so cliquey, and everyone's out to you get each other over the slightest things, and it's just a whole bag of worms. But again, it's the modern players. The whole thing about the modern players that ticks me off is no one wanted to play Modern except for them. And, you know, we were actually giving them a time slot to play it because we did appreciate they're friends of mine. They're personal friends of mine before the store was even started. And so they feel like that I'm not being loyal enough to their friendship because because we chose business over friends. And that's the biggest issue. We're like, we can't do these Modern tournaments week after week after week. No one's showing up except you 6. You know, we're going to try to schedule something else that people actually want to play in. And it's because Modern was the same problem. You try to get a new player into Modern, they get crushed with what a standard player does eventually after rotation is like, oh, well, I'll just upgrade it to Modern. And so they try to take a crappy standard deck, try to upgrade it to Modern, get crushed, and then they quit. Or they quit coming to Modern for sure. I've seen that time after. You know what a better transition is to try to turn casual players into Commander players. Because in Commander, you don't have the same problems. The best deck doesn't win in Commander. Politics win in Commander. So usually the best deck gets weeded out very, very quickly. Like all 3 people will gang up on the person with the best deck because they want to have that's the smart thing to do. So being the best player, the best deck isn't the, best way to win in Commander. So anyway, I'll quit interrupting.
I suppose, for many in the MTG finance community. You know, those are the people who bought out cards like Chandra as an investment.
Who did that? Reference, please, because I don't know one speculator that was dumb enough to buy out Chandra. It was natural supply and demand that got us to where we were getting. It was 4 of Chandras being played in a Ramen Up Red deck for months that increased the price of Chandra to where it was at. It was also Chandra was starting to see a lot more play in Modern. And mind you, one of the reasons why Chandra would actually start going down is the fact that Bloodbraid Elf and Jace the Mind Sculptor are both going to push Chandra out of Modern. They are both better slots. You just took a 4-drop that was playable in Modern and made it unplayable because of its competitors being just strictly better. So Chandra was on its way out with a ton of different factors, if you factor them in. Not because of speculators, it wasn't increasing because speculators. This myth needs to die. Speculators cannot corner a market. The thing is, too, that this guy represents one of the biggest speculative operations out there, called Card Kingdom. I have some respect for Card Kingdom. Uh-oh, now I'm going to get a bunch of hate messages from the Unsleeved Media crowd. I have a lot of respect for Card Kingdom.
They are everyone's...
It looks like that they are the only company...
Local game store.
...that is not afraid to speculate. I'll prove it to you, too, with Card Kingdom. If you actually look at buy list price of Card Kingdom, they are insanely aggressive with... I wonder if there's a way to find their history.
Sorry, magic for her.
Oh, yeah. So I wish I knew the history of this Chandra. So a lot of times they don't have it up for buy list. They're not buying it at all, wise. But I wonder what their buy list for Chandra Torch of Defiance was a month ago. I bet it was very, very competitive. And so these are your mass speculators. These are the groups that are buying up more copies of specific cards so they can resell you them at an inflated price. And Card Kingdom is known for inflated prices. Look at, just give me shout out let's do Cyclonic Rift. And here I'll prove you. Here's the speculators in action here. Sell your copy. Where's the sell your copy?
I mean, Kevin, they're everyone's local game store though.
So $10 for a Cyclonic Rift. They're out of stock, supposedly out of stock. Sell your copy for $5.50. Let's go look at the market value of Cyclonic Rifts. That was a Masters 2017 one, right? So it's about $8. But Card Kingdom's been buying it up for $5.50 clear back here. I think I even have a video that shows where I was referencing that they've been buying it up for $5.50 for months now. And I can't believe Cyclonic. It's time to sell out my Cyclonic Rifts. Yes, I speculated them. Clear back here, people. Got them for all the way from $2 to $4 is what I was picking Cyclonic Rifts up for. And yeah, it's probably time to sell out before they get reprinted. Maybe in a commander-based deck, or they could be in this Battle Bond type set that's coming out. Is typically a card that does need reprints a lot because it's one of the most played cards in Commander. However, the biggest speculators, the biggest players of buying these cards are not your average Joe on MTG Finance. They're the Channel Fire. They're all those vendors that you see at GPs. They're the ones snatching these up and inflating the price of them. So it's funny. I find the irony here that whining about speculators when you're represented literally by the biggest speculator of all, Card Kingdom, that has the most aggressive buy list, that is, I think, has made a move in the Magic the Gathering world by sponsoring all these casual channels like Magic Man, Salmon, Learning College, and the Command Zone, and who else do they sponsor? They sponsor everyone these days except for the deplorables in the Magic the Gathering community. So is that where you're going to attack this at? Where's the attack video on why has Card Kingdom bought up hundreds upon hundreds of copies of this beforehand? And they got hit by this, and that's just the nature of the beast. And the whole thing is Card Kingdom's like me. These Challenger decks aren't going to... If I weigh the potential gains of what I'm going to get from the Challenger decks versus the potential losses if I even would have spec'd into Chandra, I still think the gains outweigh the what are you freaking out about, Chloe? Outweigh the losses. So anyway, let me continue this.
And are often the huge driving force in those cards becoming $40 each.
No! 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 Did Seance move in value? The driving force of cards going up in price is demand. It's 4 Ramen-Up Red, or 4 copies required in Ramen-Up Red. It's 2 copies being required, and a lot of times 2 in the sideboard.
Kevin, I think it went down because of the reprint.
It's 2 in Energy. There was a deck forever. It's now 2 to 4 in Grixis Energy. It is not. Speculators cannot manipulate the market. If so, we'd be doing it on everything at a massive scale all day long, 24/7, ripping people off left and right about cards that can't hold value. It is a risky endeavor. You must know that a card is naturally going to go to that price due to for every spec that I have, I follow a trajectory of natural price of how long it will take for a card to be outstretched, to where it's also the nature of the beast of TCG Player and eBay, where everyone puts a copy at the exact same price, or they undercut by a penny at a time. And then what you end up having is 5,000 copies stuck for Chandra at $25.99, and then the next one is $40. And so overnight, it's like, whoa, look at those speculators that just bought these up. No. What ended up happening is that last $25.99 card sold, and the next one up is $40. And then it causes a little bit of vicious cycle, because then price memory happens where people think they have a $40 card, and so people start posting now at $40 rather than 26 or 2601 or 2602, where it naturally should have been if we're to follow this process. Speculation does not drive up the prices of Magic the Gathering cards. It cannot. That's not how economics work.
The people who laughingly post pictures of the 30 gushes they snapped up at $1 before the Pauper price spike.
That is the Kevin attack right there. So the only person I know that has been laughingly posting pictures on Twitter for a while now is, because I've been playing kind of devil's advocate, I've been playing both sides of the Pauper scene. I am a believer in Pauper. I am a diehard in Pauper. I have 19 Pauper decks and counting. I'm trying to do one a day. One a day. A sponsorship for Vitamin. Of Pauper decks to try, because we love Pauper here. My little play group is very, very invested in Pauper. And I'm leading the charge by actually going and building these decks. Zach and I play Pauper. We played Pauper today. We played what, Elves versus Zombies, and then because I built Zombies today, so I played it. He chose Mono Black Land Destruction, then realized that Choking Sands can't kill anything, and had like 3 of them in his hand. So, and then got Elves, and we played back and forth, and that was actually an interesting little matchup: Zombies versus Elves.
How does Elves work against Elves?
Zombies versus Elves.
Yeah, who's favored?
If it's how many distant melodies they draw. So
I figured that it would be the deciding factor, but
yeah, I do a good job taking out the early game, but Elves can snowball out of control. I think the 2 games that Zach won, it was a distant melody and a Lead the Stampede that got him back into it, because it's a very, very you have to save your removal for key cards, so you can't like kill the regular mana dorks. You need to kill the of course Well-Wisher, because you're still a damage based deck that eventually has to win by damage. And you also have to keep Timberwatch Elf gone, so you can't get like the aggro back at you. So I lost game 1, and then game 2, my side he kept a typical Elf card, 1 lander, and I was able to kill his mana dorks early, and then he just couldn't really establish anything by the time I won. And game 3, it was both a Lead the Stampede, or either a Distant Melody or Lead the Stampede that got him back in it. So I was ahead until we were down to top deck mode, and it was that card that just got him back in it. So anyway, yeah. So there's a little Pauper backstory there. Hey. But I've been playing devil's advocate though, because I wanted to act. So it was like kind of an act, like I'm a greedy speculator. I wanted to be like, ha, you stupid people investing in Pauper, I'm gonna screw you. No, there's no way I'd invest in a format that I don't think had any legs behind it, or that I wasn't a believer in. I both invested never invested in Tiny Leaders. That was just, everything had already spiked, and then that format died before I I was on the kind of the dying end of Tiny Leaders to begin with. I invested in Frontier because I was a huge believer in the format, because I too saw the problems with Standard into Modern. So I wanted this Standard into Frontier into Modern transition before people could take their Standard decks and upgrade it to Frontier decks, and then eventually go, further back as their collection grows into Modern. At that time period, I actually had a bunch of people that bought like mono white humans, and they were so disgusted their mono white humans, like none of their cards were Modern playable. So they had a tier 1 deck in Standard. It rotated. None of them at the time were even playable in Modern. Now that's changed a little bit with humans being able to be a legit deck. Now they have like 1 card that's playable in Modern. But it was a hard selling point to try to say, hey, cool, you invested $200 in a standard deck, have fun of that $200 going down to $15 worth of actual card value. But anyway, so I was a believer in Frontier because it gave like a nice, it eased people out of the woes of rotation. So anyway, where was I going with this crap?
That caused the Pauper price spike.
Okay,
that
boom!
they'll now
that caused the Pauper. You sound salty, Brian. You sound salty that people have ruined your format. Maybe the fact that Pauper has gone up in price is because you shilled this format so hard, and your Card Kingdom compatriots and all the other people that are on team Tellurian Community College, like Channel Fireball, have shilled this format off so much that you've got thousands of people into the format to where Pauper prices increased in value. What is the more realistic option
Kevin,
here?
Didn't you warn about this?
The realistic option is what's the more realistic scenario? Scenario A, no one likes Pauper. Speculators buy into Pauper cards to price spikes of format no one is playing. Or scenario B, Pauper is big. All of a sudden, a lot of these cards that are a lot rarer than people actually give it credit for, that today's Mythic is like more common than rares that we find out of Alliance, or commons we find out of alliances. It's then those get outstretched. Also, the worst thing with Pauper cards is a lot of them ended up in the toilet. They weren't saved. They weren't cherished. They weren't put in rare binders or sleeved. We got an entire collection in that was just completely destroyed. I mean, I was going to make a video on it, but this is your average Pauper card. Here's what your average Pauper cards look like. So let's see if there's a playable one in here. Oh, there you go. There's your Mirror Enforcer that no one gave two craps about. That is just complete. I can't throw that on the ground. Zach's going to yell at me. So that is just completely destroyed because they didn't put it in a sleeve or a binder because it was a worthless common. Now all of a sudden a format comes that only plays commons, and it causes this entire... Oh, look, there's that beautiful Spore Frog. I don't know if you can see that because I'm not watching my own video. There's a card that's probably going to spike up in value because the demand of this card is from... What is this stupid set? What's the gem? It's Mercadian Prophecy. I know it's Mercadian Mass Block, but... Oh, nice. That looks kind of cool. Is that why it stinks in here? Yeah, sorry. Look at this. Look at this. Zach's trying to design... He's actually turning our Pauper Battle Box into... I know. It's Lightning Bolt. So... Woo! That smells. I know. Oh, man. He's going to get me high. So anyway, here's this Pauper. We're trying to actually make our Pauper Battle Box kind of cool, too. So he's got Burn with the mana symbol, and then got a Lightning Bolt in back. Sweet. That's awesome. So there we go. There's some people that we love the format we're in. So yeah. So how did I get distracted on this? That's how. This is why there's a lack of Pauper cards. Simple supply and demand, and it's incredibly tough to find near mint and slightly played cards of commons from old
You
sets.
called this, Kevin.
Who called what?
I think we have you on video saying this. Like,
what, saying this exactly, that Pauper prices were going to go up in value? I think I did an entire debate with another YouTube.
The Tellurian would be so super salty about it.
Oh, yes. Well, this is what I said. My predictions with Tellurian would be super salty because this is his little boys club with, in my opinion, now I might get a little insulting here, so prepare for me to lose subscribers again about my very highly opinionated things. But the people that used to gravitate towards Pauper, I kind of joke with the Yu-Gi-Oh players that come in that people who play Yu-Gi-Oh can't play Magic, so they play Yu-Gi-Oh because they can still find... They can still find like we can have something. At least the players that play Yu-Gi-Oh here at my store, they were ex-Magic players. They got crushed. They just, no matter what they did, so now they have their own little thing where they can still be competitive within their own little realms. And I would say the exact same thing is there are diehard Commander players that love Commander and are good players, but that's not usually my Commander players here at Gone Real Games are also pretty. am I going to insult any of them by saying they're pretty bad? I think they know they're pretty bad when it comes to standard and draft and things like that. So they like Commander because it's not as competitive. So they can just sit down and have fun and play a non-competitive format. I think that Pauper, for a while, at least the Pauper the paper Pauper scene, was a lot of people that just could not compete in other formats, or they like to use the excuse that if they would have had it more expensive cards. Everyone has that customer that was like, the only reason you beat me is you're running a Mythic and I can't afford a Mythic. And it's like, no, the only reason I beat you is you made a terrible play on turn 3. You didn't value this card and it came back to bite you type thing. And so anyway, that I think that a lot of Pauper players were just in the scene to begin with because it was just a little club that they had. It's something that could differentiate themselves from the rest of the masses playing the spikes, the competitive, not those guys, those evil spikes, those evil competitive players playing that modern and standard. And so I think that a lot of these people have been salty, A, because their cheap format is no longer cheap due to supply and demand, and B, we're also getting very competitive people into Pauper. So that's my prediction, that he'd get incredibly salty with the Pauper format. But I can't stand the spread of misinformation about why the prices are the prices. Deathblade Elite, which just spiked up in value, has been sitting. I've been telling everyone forever, my patrons, I told, buy this card, buy this card, buy this card. It is undervalued at this price. It is a 3 to 4 of in a deck that is starting to make waves because it's insanely good against a variety of decks in the meta at the moment. Buy it. There's not a lot of these. It's hard to find. I can only find we've got this sticky price here at 20 cents because there's a lot of vendors with one ofs and two ofs, and unfortunately that's how the market price, it goes by listing, not by quantity. They need to change it so it goes by quantity. So if someone has 80 cards up at 10 cents a piece, that should have way more weight than one person that has a card up at 7 cents a piece, but they're weighted the same with how the TCG mid. It goes by listing, not by quantities. So it was very, very hard for me to even get a 4-of package of Deathblade Elite from clear back like here-ish to fill out a cart without paying like absurd shipping prices. So I've been telling people this is going to spike forever, not due to speculators, because no one was speculating in this card except for me. No one. And if you think that I am capable of manipulating a market, then here's my challenge to all of you viewing. Spend $600 on a card, see if it does anything. Go do it right now. Spend $500 on a card, $600. Try to buy out a card. See if you can do it. You can't do it. You cannot do it. A single person cannot do it. It's real demand. It's real trends. It's real data, like we're seeing that this is played of in a mono white heroic deck that used to be a sideboard card and is now a 4-of in all of the decks. The same thing occurred with Chomano's Blessing from Mercadian Mass. People identified the supply was just incredibly low with this. In fact, this is what happened after the speculators. They started selling out at $4. It actually stabilized, and the demand has been able to sustain this $3 price tag. All speculation does is it accelerates this natural process of demand. A card that usually doesn't get speculated in, I like to use cards like this, for example, because no one really has speculated in Sidisi. And they end up having these sort of price trajectories. This is natural supply meets demand. Is they go up in these nice, slow 1 cent, 2 cents. Never have you. I think that if you watch MTG Goldfish every day for price changes, I bet that this card never even was on the radar because it was never able to hit this movers and shakers, because it never had an 11-cent gain in one day. It had a 1-cent gain. But 1 cent over the period of a month is 30 cents. Over the period of 2 months, you're up to the 60-cent mark. To a year now, 2 years, you're up to a good $2.50 increase on a card that just slowly got there. And maybe this wasn't the best example of it, but I mean, I think you get the point. I don't think that there are anyone who was speculating in this card after it. This was the rotation. When it rotated out, flatlined out. So people selling the card due to rotation, sell. More copies are entering the market than are being purchased. More copies are being entering the market. Up, it hits its equilibrium here. More cards are being purchased than entering. More cards are being purchased than entering. More cards are being purchased. What ends up happening with cards like the Deathblade Elite, the biggest problem with Deathblade Elite is this card has been out of stock from clear back here. Like I said, I couldn't even find any packages you can get from TCG Player that were actually able to check out without obscene. Card Kingdom has been out of stock. They have been out of stock for months on Deathblade Elite. I'm surprised that they haven't increased their buy list price. Maybe they just weren't thinking about it. It just didn't hit their, oh crap, we should have restocked this and been very... I expect this to change. I expect this to go up in value with them now buying Deathblade Elites too, because then if people wanting to check out an entire deck, what ends up happening is they're like, I don't want to buy it if I can't get my Deathblade Elites. So they end up passing on a deck, and that's missed sales. So Card Kingdom is willing to like spend a significant chunk of change just to get this restocked so they can sell other cards that go along with it. Dust to Dust and Holy Light, those are both good specs in my opinion. Holy Light has, or Dust to Dust a little bit harder because there is another printing of the Dust to Dust. But, so what this has ended up happening is instead of having that slow, nice trajectory, is this buyout speculation, lack of quantities has made this, and this, again, I don't even think this was a buyout. This ended up just being the last one sold. The last package that was able to be purchased even wacky $2.99 shipping for 3 cards was purchased because it was the only option. And then it went boom up to the next highest. Someone had them up for $2.50, and that's how the price was found. So anyway, that's how supply and demand works. It's not evil speculators manipulating market prices to cheat all you poor Magic players.
Slowly sell off at $9 each. These people are very, very upset about Challenger decks. But you know what?
Source, please. Source. Who are the people upset about Challenger decks? Because you're referring to me, I'm not upset about Challenger decks because, once again, I lost equity in any cards I didn't own. My Chandras and Hazrats were long gone.
When MTG Finance is against a product like this, that right there tells me it's probably really, really good.
Ooh, that is a very, very bold statement to say because, again, who are the MTG Finance people? They're your Card Kingdoms. They're your Star City Games. They're your Channel Fireballs. They're your Rogue Deck Builders. They're everyone else that watches the market, that nurtures the market. They're invested players in the game of Magic the Gathering, for the most part. I think that a speculator that doesn't play the game, it actually makes for a terrible speculator. You need to be very entrenched in this. It's the people also that are trying to manage their collections. It's you and I that are these evil speculators.
For the average player. But now I want to hear from you. What do you think of Challenger decks? Do you currently play Standard? And if so, will you still be picking up one of these? Are you going to start playing Standard for the first time because of these decks?
Not going to be able to pick up those Challenger decks if the evil speculators get their hands on them first. All right, so now we go over to the comment section. Let me actually get back to my comments. I've missed a ton. I apologize for these live streams because I'm so terrible actually reading the comments. So if anyone has
archive of questions for later.
Let's get through these asinine comments here that are people are so misguided that of course just want to go occupy Wall Street and blame everyone. There's an entire teacher riot going on right now, which just makes me like shake my head because if teachers wanted higher pay, they need to quit going into teaching. The problem with teaching is supply versus demand. There's too many people that want to be a teacher. Everyone and their dog wants to be a teacher. Who doesn't grow up and say, I want to be a teacher? I did. That'd be my ideal job. But unfortunately, there's, it's a dime a dozen. There's so many people, and the market then says, okay, there's obviously not a need for teachers because everyone wants to be a teacher and they're willing to work for this pay, so we don't need to adjust by increasing the pay of this particular thing. I mean, you could take any profession at the moment. That's just the reality of life. That's the dog-eat-dog world we live in, is supply and demand. Going to occupy Wall Street. I mean, the opportunities are there. At the start of this video, I did say yes, that some people have a fair shake. I feel you. It's tough to compete with someone. I had a mission companion that had everything handed to him on a silver spoon, had all the connections made for him, but told exactly what job he was going to work in, was given the job right out of college, type of things, and never really had to work for anything. But the vast majority of people that do make it in today's day and world were able to crawl it out. Were able to kick and scream and crawl their way into, you know, financial prosperity. And yes, things happen that are out of your control in life, but there's no way to control that. There's no way to set this system up that can stop people from getting cancer, for example. It's just, sorry, life is as brutish, nasty, and short. But anyway, so we shouldn't try to fundamentally stop people from being able to legitly make prosperity for themselves. All right, so Strictly Better, actually really like this guy. Usually when MTG Finance Community is against a product, it usually means the product is good for this. Keep preaching, brother. Who is the MTG Finance Community? Please put a name on these people. So fuck the Magic the Gathering guys. Literally all they do by existing is jack up prices and give absolutely nothing back to the community. I'd be okay if my entire collection plummeted in price, mostly because I was never expecting to get anything back from my cardboard aside from having fun playing. Well, to do that you kill Wizards, my friend, because they need to sell packs. If their cards aren't worth any money, why would you buy packs? Would you buy packs to get cards that aren't worth value? I call BS, because why weren't you buying the event decks, Kayoko Kuro? Why the hell weren't those event decks successful then? Didn't they have the exact amount of cardboard in them that these new challenger decks do? You know that's how it is supposed to be. Before greedy assholes try to make cash of what should be a fun game for everyone. Before greedy banks try to make you pay for a house. The harder these cards slam down on the secondary market, the better. I don't even want to introduce my friends to the game because I don't want to have the guilt of introducing them to something fun only for it to drain their pockets later on. Newsflash, Magic is successful because it's a collectible card game. Packs sell because of the lottery, the human addiction to wanting to open packs. Ugh, good God. I don't think you're being mean enough to the finance community. Magic is first and foremost a game for people to play. It's already not a cheap hobby, and speculators driving up prices do nothing but put financial challenge players such as myself at an even greater disadvantage. Oh, here we go again. Here we go with the people. The people versus the 1%. The whole reason this game is expensive. Okay, here we go, everyone. Let me give you a math class. Here we're math with Kevin. Here we'll pull up the good old calculator. How are prices made, and who is ultimately to blame for the price of Magic the Gathering cards? So, here are the numbers for you. To get a playset of Mythics by opening up booster packs, which someone has to do, it requires 3 1/3 booster box to get 4 of any particular Mythic, just by going to the amount of Mythics you have per box. So, we need to times 36 by 3 equals, and then add 12. There needs to be 120 booster packs cracked to get those 4 Scarab Gods. Oh, how much is 120 packs at MSRP? Times 4. 480. 480 packs need to be cracked for a specific card. So the amount of money to get 1 Scarab God is going to require $120. Seems like a pretty damn good bargain that this only costs $30. The price was dictated when Wizards set an MSRP on a booster pack at $4. That's where your price is coming from. Not by speculators driving up the price, and if they didn't exist, that Scarab Gods would somehow miraculously be $10 or $5 or $2 or $1 or nothing. We'll just freely give them out out of the goodness of our heart, because I just love it when people come into my store and play without, providing their fair share of how much the utilities cost and how much, taxes I have to pay and everything else. Again, I'd love to open up a game store if everyone wanted to come in and chip $50. Hey, everyone can have all the cards in Rogue Deck Builder. Everyone pays $50 a month. You can come here and play. So what is our operating cost? So what, we're going to need a couple grand per month. So let's say $4,000 for a good. All right. So I need let's do. All right. So we're going to divide by 50. I need 80 players to come in and pay me $50 a month, and we'll be a gym. We'll be a club membership, and I'll continue to order all these products, and you can have all the freaking Scarab Gods you want. But if everyone wants Scarab Gods, we're going to have to divvy them out equally, all right? Because we can't play favorites here. So you get a Scarab God, you get a Scarab God, but none of you can have more than 2. And, we can't take your capital because that's just unfair. Because now you're being a speculator driving up prices even though you want one for a deck. You want your 4 of decks, you're willing to pay more than the person that doesn't? That's just Magic in a nutshell. You want the Scarab Gods? He wants a Scarab God. He is willing to actually pay more. He gets the Scarab God.
The trouble that comes out from the nature of these comments from this side of the argument is that Wizards doesn't fundamentally agree.
With me or them? Yeah.
Simply, you know, they are happy for Jace to be an expensive card in the Masters set, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally in and of itself. I mean, you can argue about the means, you know, how, you know, their tactfulness or lack thereof, how they went about it, but it's not necessarily wrong for a card to be expensive and valuable. And Mara will often talk about how they like nurturing the thrill of opening a valuable card in a pack. So long as there's that, it's a complete antithesis to this opinion that's projected out by these comments.
Well, again, and it goes back to what I was stating this entire time. If Wizards cared about the players, the Chandra would have been released a long time ago. If they really cared about people really suffering and not being able to get into a specific card, but Wizards is looking out for themselves before they're looking out for anyone. And this should be misdirected hatred toward, or if people want to have angry, it should be Wizards for allowing Chandra Torch of Defiance to get up to $40 to begin with, for having a system in place where standard isn't accessible. It doesn't. I'm sorry, we don't have the power. Speculators don't have the power to do this, because there's always someone that's willing to, you know, find a better competitive edge to get that there. It was true demand that got us to this place. If you want to blame anyone, blame the pros for showcasing those decks.
Well, yeah, it's a hype train, and it's even more fueled by someone like Tolarian, who is pushing it.
Yeah.
When they celebrate, you know, Pauper, and they say, hey, everyone should totally...
His decks were the first ones that spiked, too. A lot of the cards that got obscenely out of control were things that were showcased right out at the beginning off of the channel. It's kind of the Tolarian Community College and the Saffron Olive effect. Any cards that showcase on those, and no one's specking into Saffron Olive cards. No one is. We all know that they're going to be jank. It's just full of jank. It's actual fans that then buy 4 copies because they want to, you know, run Saffron's Olive at their local game store. So... It's time to crucify Saffron Olive and tell him he can't do that, because he's driving up price of cards. He's driving them up. Stop showcasing decks, Seth. It's now illegal. No more brews.
Hey Kevin, if people hate WotC so much, how about they just quit and leave?
So we're gonna get to this. What's now I can't even think of the logical fallacy for this. I've heard this my entire life, my friend. If you don't like Mormon culture so much, why don't you get the hell out of Utah? I was born here too. I have a lot invested in my state, in my life as anyone else. I have as much like Purple. MG Purple is great. So he's been playing Magic probably longer than the average employee at Wizards of the Coast has been playing Magic. So who has more invested in Magic? The diehard fan of Magic the Gathering I've been playing since Revised. It has a huge impact on my life. I've met friends through this. I met Zach through Magic the Gathering. I have a lot of memories and things that I cherish through it. So why not would I not want to do what's best for the game? Now back to this too. I don't care about the Magic the Finance community. Again, I think people have misattributed why I'm so ticked off at this video. I think I've said this is what the 90th time I've said this, that I had nothing financially to lose from Challenger decks because I don't have any invested capital in any of these cards that are being reprinted. In fact, I dodged some massive bullets if for the standard cards that I have been putting money in specific cards that I don't think that I think were good long-term specs for Commander, for example. But anyway, yeah, I'm going off track here. Now I can't think because Zach's...
So we had this talk about Tolarian having pushed the Pauper decks, and this can be compared really, to hyping the way pro players would be showcasing, etc. For modern players, I gave a call out earlier, and I'll do an @bomb. Well, we've been here before. If we have a memory that goes back about 4 years, there is a modern burn deck tech that Tolarian had done if you just search up Tolarian Community College Modern Burn, you'll find a deck that he hypes up much in the way that he had for Pauper, and listed it for something like $30, saying, hey, we should all get into Modern. This is a great opportunity. Everyone, there's, yeah, I think it's the very first one. Let's see, it's, are you still not playing Modern? Yeah, go down. Are you still not playing Modern? It's the other one.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so if you look at, so this is 330,000 views over the 50K over 4 years. And if you just check out the top comments, they're pretty funny. They're responding, to his assertion that, hey, this is only going to be $30. And soon after he did this video, the prices just spiked on Goblin Guide.
Well, that's what I was having a conversation with another person too that made me so ticked off too, is Tolarian Community College is lying to all of you. Tolarian Community College is a speculator. He spec'd like crazy during the Puka trade time period. He would always want cards on his list before he'd build a deck. Now he could say, well, I just wanted the deck that I'm going to be putting on my video and paper. I do the same thing. I get it. But to think that this guy probably hasn't financially benefited from speculating in cards that knowingly he's going to pump up later, oh, come on. Oh, please. Especially before these big sponsorships happen. That's what someone else in the, we'll read the comment too here, that, well, it's okay to insult Magic the Gathering speculators for trying to grind out a living, but well, it's okay for me to beg for my Patreon in the end of this video. The hypocrisy of that it's like, most of my entire channel, my entire Market Mondays, my entire reason for talking about MG Finance is to help the little guy manage their collection. I have been at ends with other Magic financiers for a long time. They think I'm garbage. You go talk to any legit MG financiers, they'll tell you don't listen to Rogue Deck Builder because I don't know what I'm talking about. So,
like the dude with the unicorn horn?
Unicorn horn?
Yeah, Chilcott, whatever his name is.
Oh, James Chilcott?
Yeah, is that one of them that you were talking about? He seems cool.
I don't know if I've ever. Yeah, oh yeah, he did comment on one of my things, didn't he? One of my tweets about how there was that yeah, exactly. There's a mass speculator that makes probably 3 figures with Marcus stuff. Again, these challenger decks are going to make a lot of people a lot of money.
I think that they could have benefited from Channel Fireball speculating a little on Pauper.
I always thought Channel Fireball was the weirdest company. I don't know why they didn't all out make sure they even had Pauper decks in supply before they were going to go ahead and start their Pauper.
That's what I'm saying.
Same thing as Star City Games. They're out of stock on all the Pauper staple. Like, hey, guess what? We're going to actually start doing Pauper. If you're a business, you should try to. It'd be like that is the closest you get to insider trading without actually insider trading, because you're the one making the move. Well, and you should have known that. It'd be this like setting up an event not having food. Be a food company and be like, hey, we're gonna set up this music concert, but we're not gonna provide food. That is their entire job, is to sell cards. Why they should have been ahead of this, and no one should blame them for it. They need to make a living. They need to eke it out. And like I said before, you can't legitimately skew the market for where the market's already going to be going. We're not executing day traders. We're not having, like, Hasbro and all these other people don't hate day traders. They love day traders. That sort of thing gets the economy moving. It's stagnation that kills economies. Investors are a good thing, not a bad thing. They help they have a calming effect on markets, because they buy when low and sell when high, making it so that the prices never spike to an unreasonable rate, because, of course, it's worth more to sell it to them at a certain point. No one's going to stick a card like, hey, I just made $8 on this card. I'm going to hold on to it. No, it's like, hey, I made the money. Now I need here's my payoff time. And what that does, it causes this padding in the market to where a card can't go down to obscene numbers before someone like myself will be like, hey, that looks like a great deal. I'm going to purchase it. And so I'm actually buying cards that would naturally go down to nothing, and before the demand reached where it needs to be. And it has the exact opposite effect on the high end. As soon as a card got to a $40, for example, that's when people were actually like, hey, I'd rather sell this $40 Chandra than have it in my deck. or have it in my collection. So, but yeah, this is very disingenuous. The whole Puka trade with Tolarian Community College, the amount of money that Tolarian Community College siphoned out of Puka trade is just obscene, out of other people's money, because that's how they paid him. They didn't pay him to do videos; they gave him Puka points. Don't try to be a watchdog or someone that's out there for the little guy when you conveniently scammed a lot of people out of their hard-earned equity as in the form of Puka trade. Anywho, which Puka trade, by the way, has recently apologized for that and said that will no longer be a practice. So kudos to Puka trade. I had a long 45-minute conversation with Jonathan Medina, who's basically the new head of Puka trade. The people, little story about Puka trade is the original creators of Puka trade have bowed out completely, and so there are some diehards fans of the, which I think they are a glutton for punishment, because I don't think the Puka trade is A, worth saving, or B, can be saved. But
card sphere exists.
There are some people that are they're believers in the service that want to revive it, and they've cut out a lot of the corruption, a lot of the paying authors in Puka points, the giving incentives for people to scam the system by free points for everyone. It won't cause deflation. It won't cause a market to crash. Free points. Everyone gets a car. Everyone wants this. Yeah, no one will get screwed out of their money. So please don't give me this watchdog nonsense. All right, we can get to some comments. I'm going to try to dig up some. Some.
I got them all in the Discord at the moment. Like a lot of the ones that I feel like were worth like responding to in some form or another.
Okay. Where are we at? Anyone have an at question about the market? Appreciate everyone that's been on this. This has been kind of a long-winded stream where...
Kevin, I got some in Discord.
Okay, what? Discord what?
Comments. I've been collecting them.
Okay, I don't see them in Discord. Read them out.
Jeez. Alright, Max Smith. Hey Rogue, watch your Market Monday edition on sealed product. Do you think, card value aside, that limited for certain sets
Oh, I see it now.
Raise their prices over time? Right. Rising Eldrazi, I think?
Alright, here we go. I found your thing here. So, hey Rogue, I watched your Monday edition on sealed product. Do you think, card values aside, that limited for certain sets will raise their prices over time? Rise of Eldrazi, Innistrad, cons. Well, limited products pre-Return to Ravnica absolutely will continue to go up in value. Not Khans of Tarkir. Khans of Tarkir has a long way to go, because again, there are a lot of sealed product out there for cons that were gobbled up by speculators, investors, which, mind you, I told everyone to stay away from. The whole accusation that I'm just in it for money, I would have jumped on that hype train and got everyone to buy. I would have first bought into Khans of Tarkir and got into the hype train, and then had people, and then sold out 115, bought $75 cons boxes and sold at 115. All right, so then we have Ben Williams. Does that answer the question? I think that anything pre Return to Ravnica is still fine to sit on. I would argue though that I just like singles cards because they're easier to move, and you don't have all the headaches that are associated with sealed product. So that's just my my personal preference. Ben says Yu-Gi-Oh! Reprint policy. It was brought to Magic with throw the speculators for a loop. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is weird. So they have, the whole thing is they don't reprint the exact card. So the collectors still like the original printings and those hold value. And then they'll reprint mythics as like commons and uncommons. And I don't think you want to use Yu-Gi-Oh! As a good baseline for a successful game because it's highly not successful. That's my 2 cents. Why would you ever try to imitate something that isn't the top? Like where was Magic strong? Try to imitate those days. And it wasn't during this reprint heaven. All right, Pauper metagame. Pauper, good format or best format ever? By the way, everyone, the Pauper metagame has a great channel going. I don't know if Pauper metagame's still in chat because that was early on. But go ahead and subscribe to the Pauper Metagame. I have been subscribed to the channel. Some good analysis on the Pauper Metagame. So this is from Scribbling. So do you guys like to play Magic? Absolutely. I'm a diehard fan of Magic the Gathering. I play more Magic the Gathering than all of you people because unfortunately I'm like the go-to person. I'm the fill-in person at our store. That if people need an 8th person for a draft, or if people need a 4th person for a commander pod, or people need a league opponent, or people just want to test out their deck, I'm the person that ends up playing against that person. So I play a ton of Magic the Gathering with the people that come into our store, and I just love to play the game. That's why you don't see a lot of MTGO for me lately, is that I play so much paper that by the time I get around to wanting to tape games, I just need a break from Magic. All right, so Jack says, did you would eliminating distributors mean good or bad? Go check my last video on that, my last live stream. I talked about how distributors need to go. They're unnecessary, and I think they're clogging up the ability for products to get to where they need to be at a better margin for local game stores, and just a better outcome, in my opinion. Margins for Wizards and local game stores. Wizards could actually cut prices of products if they're able to go directly from Wizards to local game stores rather than Wizards to distributors to local game stores. I think they are no longer a necessary evil, but it's my own 2 cents there. Sacred Cat says, what do you think of Dryad Arbor from the vault? Do you think it should be banned? No. It has a 1/1 clearly on its bottom right. If they're hiding it, you shouldn't be able to hide it. I don't think that you should be able to use any sort of sleight of hand or knowingly try to make it so your opponent misses the... I'm the same thing. What happened in League, I clearly enchanted my creature, put it on the stack and everything with a 1/3 Death Touch. It's my opponent's own damn fault if they decide to attack into a 1/3 Death Touch. No takesy backsies at that point because they're too lazy to read a card. It's the exact same thing. I don't like rules luring, but I also don't like when someone is clearly, they miss something, like there's a Dryad Arbor. It's not... Okay. Secret Cal says, what do you think about... Oh, I already get that one. Ben says, if WotC looked at Konami's reprint policy and used it as a guideline and adopted a mild long-term would help out the game? Konami, again, is Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
yes.
I don't have any experience with Yu-Gi-Oh. I know, though, that it's accessible for people that want to play it, and somehow collectors still can retain their value. I don't think that that's a model that is sustainable for Magic. And I also don't think that it's a model that is good for Wizards of the Coast profit margins. See, I'm not out for just me in my store. Wizards needs to be successful. Wizards needs to make that bank. Wizards needs to do so in a responsible way that won't end up killing the game. And that's why, I'll reiterate, that's why that I am very critical of these challenger decks, because I don't think they really serve any interests here. I don't even think that will lead to record profits by Wizards. I think it's going to be another blunder. Jose, Kevin, can I get an updated Soul Sisters list? Unfortunately, I have not played Modern in quite some time, so I don't even know where to start. I also know that both Jason the Mind Sculptor and Bloodbraid are bad news for Soul Sisters. So I don't know if it's playable at the moment on Modern. I know that this shouldn't, a lot of people say that I should go back to my roots, be more like Saffron Olive, and, willing to play decks that can't be competitive just for the lulls or just for the fun. I don't know. I've turned kind of into a Spike myself, unfortunately. But I just admit that on Rogue Deck Builder stream, that Kevin is a Spike. Oh, joy. So it's hard for me to play decks that I can't find as a success at the moment. But I'll revisit Soul Sisters, especially if it gets like a card that I find interesting. I'll definitely revisit it. But right now, it's not Modern's just something I just don't find enjoyable at the moment. But I'll look into it for you. 3AAA family, you are one of the realest and most reliable YouTubers out. I pray that your business, finances, endeavors continue to prosper. Don't sweat the haters. Again, I'm the most opinionated person, and there's one of the hidden gems that came from being in a borderline relationship is the world was literally against me. One of the things that borderlines are very good at doing is turning your friends, family, peers, world, everyone to hate you. And so my ex had run away all of my friends, all of my family, all of my ability to make friends and family. Remember, I had to delete every female in my phone because she had anxiety issues, she had trust issues. And I remember I'd kept a cousin's phone number in my phone, and my ex went through my phone and freaked out because there was a Heidi in my phone. And like, that's my crazy cousin's name. I don't think you need to worry about that. But it wasn't good enough. I was emotionally cheating on her because I left a girl's phone number in my... No, don't get me started on this. I'll open up a whole can of worms with stuff. But the whole thing is that's where I got my resiliency of being able to be against the grain, where I don't need validation from people. Just validation from myself is good enough. The entire world could be against me on this. My entire fan base could be against me on this. And it's not going to change my position on doing what I feel is the right thing or speaking out on the right thing. I could have easily kept my relationship with people like Gathering Magic, people like Tulare Community College or the Mana Source, people like Wizards of the Coast. I was already on the fast train with them. All I needed to do was just, play ball. I chose to go down the route that I went because I do believe that it was the right thing to do. And I'd do it again, knowing the consequences for doing certain things I've done in the past. All right. Why'd you just... Okay, so... Mark says, Kevin, I agree with your analysis. However, I disagree with your conclusions. I do not think they could give a gift in the way you speak of, because that would be defining the meta rather than responding to it. And given decks that are competitive within the meta, they will always have to be the 3 to 6 months behind, and maybe more to ensure that it's not a fad deck. Mark, I do believe that these decks have been... What I've said about these decks, so they've been around since the beginning of Kaladesh. None of these has been a new archetype. Well, Approach was the beginning of Amonkhet, was when this deck started to become popular. We're all sick of these damn decks. That's one of my criticisms beginning of the Challenger deck. Or maybe I'm just speaking too much for my own perception.
Oh, by the way, Mark Mason is Judge Mark?
Yeah, I know who Mark is.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Micah, sure, you can attribute everything to supply and demand when speculators tighten supply. Yeah, well, you can find a boogeyman. You can blame investors. You can blame bankers. You can blame construction for the housing market crash. When we go look at the real responsible people for economic crisis that we've been through, the last major depressions, the last major recessions, the obvious culprit, in my opinion, is the meddlers in the market, which was not the banks, well, the banks to a point, but was the policymakers, the people that actually set the rules for the market. It was the government that was the biggest problem with the housing market crash, because they were incentivizing the bad loans. They were making it so that banks had a get out of jail free card with making, terrible loans. And so how do you hate the player, not the game, or you should hate the game, not the player type thing? And that's what ended up happening. Why would a bank not make a loan that was basically backed and guaranteed by the government? So if anyone's anger should have been anywhere, it shouldn't have been at Wall Street. It should have been at their own government for creating those policies. So it's kind of the same thing here. You can blame the speculators, but the price my little math lesson is dictated by Wizards of the Coast. If you're upset with card prices, there's where you should air your frustrations out on. Finance is just a reaction to a market that already exists. That's why they call it the secondary market. Anyway. All right. So do you think that WotC are actively trying to find a new modern and maybe cycle out some card blocks, or is it just investors trying to make a new market? With what? Diddley, I don't understand the question. Trying to find a new modern and maybe cycle out some card blocks?
This is talking about with Pauper.
I don't know. I think they needed new modern. I think that it'd be great to introduce a new format. Pauper has its own little special place, because Pauper is a different way to play Magic. There isn't a lot of like I win buttons in Pauper. There's no Scarab Gods. There's no Glory Bringers. There's no even to get to that point. There's no Ravenous Chupacabras. There is very limited use for specific cards. The best thing you have in Pauper as far as a creature is Gurmag Angler. It works a little bit different than it does in Modern. It creates this like really quick card that is easy to get rid of in Modern. In Pauper, it creates a really quick card that can be difficult to get rid of, but a lot of times isn't backbreaking in matchups. Like Elves just laughs at it. It doesn't do anything. Delver can then bounce it. So that it's these little 1-for-1s that happen in Pauper where you never really feel like you're out of the game. It all depends on how you manage your resources. To me, it's a very skill-intensive format that rewards tight play, and that's what I'm a huge fan of Pauper. I don't know if they're trying to kill Pauper in that direction. I've liked a lot of the downshifts. I've been a fan of almost all of the downshifts. In fact, I think that they still should specifically look at non-blue cards to downshift, because blue is to the point where I'm starting to think it's getting a little bit too out of control in Pauper, with a 17% meta share for Delver is quite high, in my opinion.
So how about the very real possibility of a new Modern?
They shouldn't do a new Modern. They just need a new format. Like I said, if they want ways for new players to be able to transition from Standard and not feel like they've just wasted money, they need to have a format in between Modern and Standard. Frontier was a great idea, terrible execution. Mark Rosewater killed it with the Blogatog post of saying he didn't like the Khans of Tarkir as a starting point. I actually agree with Mark. I think Khans of Tarkir is a bad place.
Is Haryuya still employing the Frontier tournaments?
Do we still play, or does
Haryuya?
Haryuya still does do Frontier tournaments. I believe they do. I don't know if they've. I think that, what's the Canadian one? Face to Face. I think Face to Face is stopped, but Haryuya, I believe, still does. There is a real diehard fan base for Frontier, and apparently it's in the best shape it's been in a long time. Because even cards from Ixalan are impacting the format. So, I don't know.
Suppose it started with Magic Origins.
Yes, it did.
No, I mean, suppose that it does get done, and it does start with Magic Origins. What are the implications of that? There are still posts on Blogatog where Marrow does double down on it starting at Origins if they were to do it.
I don't know if Origins is where they'd go with it. I would actually personally, I think they're going to go with Ixalan forward, which seems like incredibly new. Yes, it's incredibly new, but I think it's just a good starting point as far as Arena is concerned, because they already have those cards programmed in.
Right. Do you suppose they might hold off until Dominaria or the new core set for starting point?
I doubt it. I think the Ixalan is the better starting point. Just makes sense. The later that they go, the worse off, because it's going to take that. They can't start a format until there's actually enough to, like right now they can't do Ixalan forward because it's Standard. Actually, Ixalan forward would be kind of funny for a format that has less cards in it than Standard, but is a non-rotating format. That'd be actually interesting to do.
Doesn't MTG Arena also include Kaladesh?
Some cards, I believe. I don't know if they programmed the entire thing in. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. But
right. I mean, that would make it not too difficult for them to add Shadows of Innistrad block and Battle for Zendikar and Magic Origins.
Yeah. Again, it wouldn't be too hard, but is it in Wizards' best interest is where the whole argument too against Modern, though, is people have rightly pointed out the card pool of Modern, since Modern has existed, is greater than the difference of the card pool of Legacy to Modern when Modern was formed. So there are more sets now from where did Modern start? Innistrad? Is that when they started in, when did Modern start officially? End of Return to Ravnica?
It got popular around then.
Yeah, I don't know when it officially started.
I think it was still going. It was still in the background, but Extended was sort of.
Yeah, well, when it became official format is what I'm trying to say.
When they killed Extended, I believe it was
right before Return to Ravnica, because Deathrat Shaman got
just
banned.
Before Innistrad. Okay. Is what we're saying. Just before Innistrad. I remember it started taking off about Return to Ravnica. It was that rotation that people started playing Modern. Because I won a PTQ in Modern. And Modern had already been a thing for a while, and that was Dragon's Maze. So yeah, Innistrad does seem about right.
So if there is a new Origins on format or something, or let's say Ixalan on, or wherever they decide to put the starting point, in the long term, maybe that goes back to these challenger decks having additional appeal for
that's what
cards that are going to rotate out, and people want to use these cards in a wider format.
I actually called that in my challenger decks. I'm gonna say at least they could have done for us is announced a format where the challenger decks would actually be useful. Then these would be home runs.
Seeding for that.
Did I just say that out loud? Can someone quote me on that? Then these would be home runs. I'm not in this for the speculation. I'm in this for the playability of the cards. I'm in this for the implications of it's going to have on the game as a whole, not in these subsets of the market, the new players, the returning players, the existing players, the blah, 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 the collectors. If they would have said, hey, we're going to release these challenger decks, but don't fret, they're only good for 6 months. They're also going to be a good starting point, Kaladesh forward, for this new format we're going to call Future Magic. I don't know, whatever the hell they call it. And therefore, you can invest in these, or, sorry, I won't use the word invest because now that's going to trigger people. You can buy these with the assurance that your cards are going to have some sort of playability beyond the 6 months shelf life. This is still, like I've said multiple times, it's going to create a headache scenario for Target and Walmart. If these are, I think these are going to be in a very, very heavy print run. I can get 10 sets of them all core level stores can get 10 sets of them. So that's 50 decks.
And this is the twist that the dirty speculator cares about the player all along.
Well, I'm a player first. I'm a speculator second. Oh, in fact, we don't do a lot of it's funny. I tweet out those little pictures on Twitter, but if you actually total the value, like people can make fun of me there because it's like, look at Rudy's Bazaar of Baghdad investment. One Bazaar of Baghdad was worth more than my entire speculation on Pauper. I spent about $600 to $700 on Pauper. So one spec in one vintage card was greater. I'm not in the MTG finance. I'm not as entrenched as most people want to accuse me of. So, yeah.
So
By the way, you got some more.
Angie,
things.
yes, my math is bad. Why was I thinking there was 5 Pauper decks or 5 Challenger decks? There's only 4. So yeah, I got 40 decks. So yeah. Which is a proposition I have for people. Again, I'll sell you these. You want them, I'll sell them. If I can actually sell them in MSRP, cha-ching, I make $14 per deck off of a $16 investment. In fact, I could probably overinflate the Hazarets because they're gonna dry up quicker. So then we're gonna have people screaming about Hazaret not being MSRP, dirty speculators, dirty store owners that are selling above MSRP. They should be arrested and shot. But give me those Masters 25 boxes for 155. Thanks.
You got some more
questions. Let Scron. What were you saying, Scron?
Oh, so if a new format does come into fruition, would your attitude on them change? You're saying, to
absolutely yes. My attitude would change on Challenger decks. Then I'd be like, oh, thank you, Wizards. You were actually smarter than I gave you credit for. This wasn't just a money grab to try to get one last little bit of equity. And they'd be a great product because not only that, because they would be giving a big signal that they're not trying to make another Modern with runaway value. What happened with Modern too is people forget this too. Tarmogoyf was a $40 card before Modern, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when we started Tarmogoyf, we were actually bitching about $160 playset of Tarmogoyf. And in fact, I chose Soul Sisters because Soul Sisters was like I want to say a $50 deck is all I spent for Soul Sisters. That's including the RX Champions. Do you know what the funny thing is? I think that the most expensive card in Soul Sisters, like the card that I was like, oh man, I don't want to buy these damn cards, was Martyr, which was a $2 uncommon at the time, and Windbrisk Heights. Those were like the damn Commander players, like spiking up the value of these. I don't even think Commander was even big back then. It was just casual players. They were spiking up the value of these cards I needed in Modern. And I was Goyf wasn't $70 at the start of Modern. Goyf was like it was very cheap. And Then it spiked up after Modern Masters 2013. Modern Masters 1. When you want to talk about speculators, which I called out, Star City Games got the print run numbers and made basically just a well-informed decision that if they bought up all the Tarmogoyfs at Modern Masters 2013, that the price could be able to settle at 150 and they'd be able to make a profit overnight of spiking the price of Tarmogoyf from 100 to 150. They were going around with pockets full of cash buying from all the other vendors for $100 a pop. So yeah, Goyf is... I do remember this, so it must have been around Innistrad too, because I remember right when the Modern craze started happening that Goyfs, everyone was complaining about $40 Goyfs. And I think it's just because Legacy. Everyone has to remember too, before Modern took off, Legacy was the only way your cards would gain value, and there were so many sets in a row that didn't even have a Legacy playable card. So your whole standard set would go down to oblivion as soon as it rotated. And that box, like sealed product, is actually a terrible investment back then too. One of the reasons why sealed product has gone up a lot in value is due to Modern, because it still has cards that are valuable, so people just end up cracking boxes to try to get that specific cards. Like Chalice of the Voids, for example. We're going to open up some Mirrodin because it's got Chalice in it. So, hey, look how this is going. There's always that opportunity for what we call arbitrage. It's when like the sealed product is worth more than it's selling for, and that's why sealed product will then start to be cracked. And then it will dip into the supply, and then the collectible value of it will then increase. And then it will be no longer worthwhile to crack boxes. And rinse and repeat until it then does start to outstretch because it becomes a rare product. I don't think that's possible with RTR Forward, though. You can still find deals like crazy on the internet. I just bought a box of Theros, a box of Theros, a box of Born of the Gods is what that damn set's called. Journey Nix, $65 a piece. Got a free gift, so we got a free pack of sleeves, and used a $10 discount on David Adams for the order. And so that's how cheap these things are going for. These are way cheaper than I could have ever got them from Wizards. Straight from Wizards. Anyway, any questions I missed in chat here? Try to @ me so I actually see what's going on. So I have 135 people in chat. Sorry if I've been very non-responsive to the chat. I'm going to try to get better at that. I'm going to also try to find... So here's the MTG Finance comments, where I actually like this one. Please do not lose out on the irony of this gentleman talking down about us MTG Finance users work to create our own prosperity while... about us MTG Finance users working to create our own prosperity while ending the video begging for money through Patreon. Classic. Classic, classic. I've made, of course, some comments here. Well, I don't make six-figure shilling bulk card kingdom crap decks, so I do what I do to make the hobby affordable for me. If he wants to stop selling my spare singles into the hype, then he can have then he can give me a stipend or fuck off. And I just come back. Also, don't forget, Card Kingdom themselves are massive speculators. In fact, that's what I admire about their operation. They try to get ahead of spikes themselves and have a very aggressive buy list. But there are some good comments throughout this MTG Finance tweet. So how dare these filthy MTG Finance respond to incentives? Outrageous! Wow, this actually has... this was downvoted into oblivion when I first did it. So if anyone is honestly hoarding standard legal planeswalkers from a set that is print on demand, I don't think they should be in here, referring that this isn't the subreddit for them. And then, yeah, or hasn't sold them already due to rotation. Apparently all we speculators forgot about rotation. And then still have -3 for this one. Speculators bad, reprints good. I majored in English. Let me educate you on economics. So this person says, speculation is bad in some ways for players who don't speculate. There's nothing wrong with his position. He doesn't suggest that speculating is a market failure. He absolutely does. In this same video, he seems to believe that if no one bought up Pauper staples, everyone could have all the Pauper cards they want for $1. He's ascribing magical powers to speculators. Prices aren't set by demand curves, but by mean speculators who buy all the gushes. And don't forget to buy Card Kingdom bulk crap. See, that's the biggest thing about TCC. He's supposed to be a watchdog for bad products when there is nothing worse than these. What do they call the Card Kingdom decks? I know they have the whole little girl thing going on with the magic for her. What do they call these? Battle decks. Now, I'm not going to insult Card Kingdom so much because I think to make a $10 product, like a secondary seller like Card Kingdom, I don't think it's possible to create they brand these. So I don't think it's possible for them to create the deck boxes, create the little instruction manual that goes inside these boxes, as well as the labor that's required. I'm finding right now how labor intensive it is to put together these popper lists that we're selling on Rogue Deck Builder, and I've only got like 5 orders of popper decks, and how labor intensive it is to find these cards. So I'm sure that all of the price of this is mainly labor to create these battle deck boxes. There's 60 card decks built around a theme or archetype protecting them. Now, how do we look into... They have a deck list of these somewhere. Battle decks. And you can see that it's just all garbage of the battle decks. Yeah, I can't even find the deck list of them anymore. But if you looked into it, there's nothing of any sort of value in these. Funny thing is that we figured out Card Kingdom was wanting like all this garbage. Like Zach and I sent a $250 package off of absolute bulk to Card Kingdom, and then we figured out it's because they needed these garbage cards for their battle decks. So they actually ran out of battle deck cards, probably in anticipation for this stupid Magic for Her campaign that is just trying to, it literally is just virtue signaling. It's not really doing anything. It's just trying to sell a product and then act like that they're all sales of this benefit the Cyber Smile Foundation. Oh, God. Here we go on a rant of how I hate charities. I better not. I've already been too controversial in this particular video. So anyway, if anyone should be embarrassed by shilling for a terrible product where you lose all your value, it's right here. But again, I actually don't really have a problem with these. I think that this is a creative little outlet to actually sell bulk in a non-scammy way, like repacks on eBay. Spoiler or disclaimer alert, we sell repacks at Gone Rogue Games. However, we have a huge disclaimer right on the repack that you will not find value in these. These are meant for drafting. This is how much it costs us labor-wise to make these draft packs. So $1 a pack is exactly how it's worthwhile for us to actually painstakingly put these together. So, you get $3 worth of value of enjoyment of actually doing a Gone Rogue draft. It's the cheapest way we can do drafts here. So anyway, all right, let's get back to what does anyone want to see? What does anyone want to talk about? I think I've beat this pretty. Let's just show the Kevin tweets now, since I haven't.
I mean, you still got some.
We'll get back to the Q&As. I'll get back to it. All right, so here's my thread for the twatter. So this was in response after I, of course, woke up, saw the video, saw the kind of the little hit piece on the gush, the whole showing the gushes, bragging about the gushes, which again is more of me just playing the role rather than really trying to screw people. For the last time, Challenger decks were not created to screw MTG Finance, nor did they ignore the secondary market. Each of these was created with a strict budget to milk $100 worth of market price cards for the illusion of a bargain one last time before they rotate. Is there anywhere in here that I'm complaining that my speculations died in price or that I'm getting screwed over by this? People like me are going to make a killing off of these, specking on the missing pieces to prey on the new enthusiasm of these returning bargain players before they get crushed at their F&Ms and quit in disgust. Quit cheerleading bad products that have a 4-month shelf life. Also, rest in peace, rip game stores that get stuck with all the Approach the Second Sun decks because those damn things won't sell, but we have to order them in sets to get those Hazarets. I'm so sick of the various MTG YouTube personalities that are merely sensationalists, claiming to be experts that spread misinformation and unrealistic outlooks based merely on anecdotes without even attempting to analyze the potential consequences. Yes, predominantly the MTG Finance community is the one ringing the warning bell about these, but is this because we were being screwed over, Or is it that we are weighing the lasting consequences for how these decks will disrupt the entire market? Why is it that virtually no Ixalan or Rivals of Ixalan cards are included? Is it because WotC wanted to pull a fast one? As what happens in markets, one action causes a reaction. In this case, it's $18 search for Azcantos and $16 Vraska's Contempts. But do not fret. Wizards Magic will be sure to give you a playset of both of these for cheap in April of 2019, right before they rotate. Until then, keep buying those Ixalan packs. Wouldn't want to crash the price of sets we were actively printing. So, I mean, that's kind of exactly where I'm at here with the... So if my tweet was that... I don't know where the reference to it for the Reddit, the subreddit, was attacking what I was saying, because I think that I hit on all ends that this is, you know, there's more to this than this. Just the speculators losing out on their speculations, which again, I don't shed one tear for people that lost money in any of their speculations on cards that are being reprinted in Challenger decks. They should have been wiser and got out of it before the natural decay of the rotation. Anyway. Anyhow. Alright, so get back to questions. Will Norn ever be viable in Modern again? Norn Sisters is okay. I just thought it was inferior to regular Soul Sisters.
I think you skipped some.
I'll get back to it. So Spartaderp says, you dodging my question? What would you change in the Challenger decks? You said you debate anyone. Yeah, well, haven't I said that? I put Ixalan cards in it. I'd create a format where they're actually useful in. It's not, my problem's not with the sheer value in them. My problem's not with that they are decently put together decks. Well, they didn't create those decks. They just took a net deck and watered it down to $100. They played deduction is what they played. How can we make these dollars have $30? We'll sell them for $30, but they can only include $100 because Wizards won't let us put more than $100 into it. So they just started going deduction. Oh, I guess I'm going to have to... I do the exact same thing when a customer comes into my store. I have $20. Okay, well, here's a cool deck. Ah, shit, that's $35. Okay, how can I get it down to 20? Oh, we got to pull this out. We got to pull this out. Oh, this version replaces this version and basically does a similar thing. Here you go. Here's your $20 deck. Wizards just had the advantage of being able to put 100 cards in a $30 deck. And there's no creativity to this. These were pieced together quite easily. I'd be surprised if there even was a substantial amount of playtesting that was involved in these Challenger decks. Okay, so what do you think of the Mirage slow fetches? Shrike asks, the ghetto is coming out. Slow fetch is ever being reprinted in Standard since Standard has had typed dual lands. They're probably too... The slow fetches are probably usually just strictly worse than like Evolving Wilds a lot of the times. Right? They're the ones that come into play tapped and then crack for an untapped land. So it's kind of the trade-off with Evolving Wilds that gets a land into play tap that turn and then untaps, but it comes into play untapped. I think we saw kind of the difference with a Renegade map versus... What's the other one? The little amulet. Traveler's Amulet. Garrett says, how about actually talking to Tolarian Community College? Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I love TC, but I'm saying stop hating behind the back. Be an actual human and do in front of them. When am I behind the back? Like, everything, I've reached out to these people before. We know. I know how to invite him. He's not going to come on my channel. There's no way, no how. No way, no how. I mean, I did reach out to him on Twitter too. I then tweeted and gave him what he wanted, and his response was weird. His response was just, "Oh, cool." So I'll find you that tweet here. Where is that stupid tweet? Let's go to the... Hopefully I'm not giving out any personal information by clicking on these stupid things. So there we go. There was my response. So of course I had to go get my camera and say, looky, looky, looky. Those damn speculators ruining Pauper. So if you can see that I've spread out a bunch of them, and these are all packets that are full. So however much a penny sleeve can hold of Deathblade Elites. I don't know how many copies I have. Quite a few of Deathblades. It's been a slow process of accumulating these cards over time because I correctly was able to identify a card that was going to get to a price, probably a $2 price tag, very similar to other cards in this supply range from sets like Legions or comparable sets with low print runs and bought in for quite some time. This was a risky investment and it paid off. And so there actually was a response by because again, this guy has to save face in the public eye. And has that been deleted now? I'm not seeing the TCC response at all.
Let me take a look.
Maybe I'm just bad at Twitter. There it is. I was just about embarrassing asked for a clearer picture because my first picture was terrible. Some mono white heroic builds in Pauper having good results, I think. Love Legion cards. So apparently, again, talking about people behind backs or not like really being specific with who they're meaning about. So there, there we go. I responded. I tried to start a discussion, a legit discussion. Could have called me out here the same way in the video. Why are you doing this? If that's the sentiments here, why are you doing this, Kevin? Why are you speculating? Why are you driving up the price of Pauper? What's it? Why? Why be this person? No, but respond positively in the Twitter, not negatively. All right.
Yeah, I sent you a lot of stuff involving that because it seemed like a pretty popular topic to talk about in chat.
Hey, it's Darth West. Long time no see, Darth West. What's up? Why aren't we playing Magic? Because I don't play Magic anymore, Darth. All I do is rant. I actually wanted to play some Pauper today. I got a sweet little brew I'm working on. Tortured Existence with Aramancer and Pilgrim. Helad's Pilgrim. It is there's some really cool cards. There's a card from Alliances that I really need them to print on MTGO though. It's like a 2-mana enchantment that says when a creature goes to or dies, draw 3 cards, then discard a card. I think it'd be perfect in Aramancer. Unfortunately, it is not Pauper legal because it's never been printed on MTGO. Tisk tisk. All right. So, Cannabis, did I actually answer your question to a... So, yeah, you prefer me to go back to Magic but not focus on Pride. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair criticism. If you think that I still have some, issues. Sort of. Again, though, I was directly called out in this video. I'll be damned if I don't respond to it. And I'll be damned if I don't actually... try to stick up for my practices and other people's practices of trying to manage a Magic the Gathering collection, or heaven forbid, try to actually make money on a hobby. Try to keep my local game store afloat. Jesus, what's next? A picture of Noel Chambers? You want a picture of Noel Chambers purple? Let's have our daily update of where Noel Chamber is. See if it's gone up another penny. So last time I checked, we were at 56 cents. Oh, damn it. We are still at 56 cents for Null Chamber. I think I own more copies of Null Chamber than I do Deathblade Elite, to be honest. See, there's my manipulation of the market. I can't even affect this price of a crappy reserve list card. The whole thing about Null Chamber, I'm still a big believer in Null Chamber. Null Chamber is an education card. It's a really good card, just no one knows about it because it was in Mirage, it was in Enchant World, which is, what the hell does an Enchant World? Can people in chat even explain what an Enchant World does? I know what it does, but your average Magic player doesn't realize what an Enchant World does. So there's the issue with it. Probably the most fun card to play in Commander, in my opinion. I think I've had more enjoyment with Null Chamber than any other card because there's no better feeling than locking down a Skittles deck and a Krenko deck on turn 4 with Null Chamber. So, and just watching a black and a red deck have no answers to having their commander locked out. So basically how Null Chamber works is you and target opponent each name any card except a basic land. Those cards cannot be played. In 1-versus-1 match, this is kind of a bad card because they're able to also hinder your deck, your ability to play. But in Commander, what you do is you make an ally. So you say, hey, player B, want to screw player C and D? You name their commander, I'll name this player D's commander, you name player C's commander. Boom. then it's you've never moored 2 cards for 1. So it's just like a nevermore times 2. That's why I spec'd in it. My whole theory behind Null Chamber was I went to this reserve list. I literally painstakingly scoured the last remaining cards that were under. It was under 25 cents at the time. That's crazy that there isn't even a reserve list card under 31 cents now. The people are buying into Keeper of Tressorhorn. This card is god awful. Talk about a god awful card. There's some bad ones here of cards that cannot ever see play just because they have such negative drawbacks to them. So I painstakingly went through all of these cards and read what they did, and also looked at the sets that they were from, and came across Null Chamber. The thing is too is I had actually played Null Chamber at this time, and then saw that Null Chamber, a card that I'd already included in a commander deck up to this point, was a budget reserve list card to invest in, and so that's why I chose Null Chamber. I don't think that even now at the 50 cents, I don't think there's a better target with more. I'd be interested if anyone could find a better, more reasonable target in the 56 cents range, or the 50 cent range. Sarah Aviary, all creatures with flying get +1/+1. Is that better than Null Chamber? I mean, this is an ability that's on so many different cards. An enchantment where you can return 2 islands you control to return a creature. Ooh, that's pretty aggressive. I do like Asmira. I have an Asmira Holy Avenger deck to begin with. Fun commander. In fact, the problem with me is I'm too spiky. It started off as this Asmira Holy Avenger deck, and then it just turned into a Birthing Pod deck to try to tutor up specific combos. But the way you build Asmira, though, is pretty fun. Hardened Scales, and then a Sack Outlet deck. So at the end of turn, each turn, put a +1 counter on Asmira for each creature you put in a graveyard from play this turn. So you just want to sacrifice a lot of Eldrazi spawn decks, and you can kind of use Asmira as a kind of a bad Voltron commander. Of course, there's better ones to do it, but with the creativity of commander, not a lot of people are running this card as a commander. So cool card there. So you might be able to convince me that's better than Null Chamber. But the vast majority of these cards are so unplayable, and this is still a playable card. So there you go, Perp. You got an entire rant off of me. All right. Does it affect Derevi? I don't think so, because Derevi you can still flash in and out.
I went ahead and archived everything that you've skipped over. Should be easy for you to find. I'm
too lazy now at this point. I don't know how much more. I'll start with the regular thing. So, Professor's remark was a bit tone deaf, but at the core he is right. The general public spec bio are bad. Reprints are good. If you can prove to me that specs do anything to the market price, please prove it to me. That's my next meme. I'm gonna have to do the ladder with Crowder. How come all these like diehard liberals are using that meme though? Don't they know that who's behind it is like their mortal enemy?
Because it's a really good meme.
It is a really good meme, but
made a really good meme.
Yeah, but anyway, so I want to make the Crowder meme of speculators do not ruin Magic. Change my mind. Can someone please, I want evidence though, I don't want emotions. I don't want the feels bad that someone bought up a card, or that actually what ends up happening with speculators, they bought up the last copies of the card. It's not like they were, again, they weren't the entire force, and they were the little teeny fraction of the force. It's kind of like the person that eats the last piece of candy is accused of eating the entire bag of candy. Seance what? Yeah, Seance was, Zach just screamed Seance. Yeah, Seance was a failed experiment of a card that people thought they could buy out, and it didn't even affect the price by a quarter, like 25 cents from a bulk rare.
I was shocked people bothered with Seance.
It was a good card. I think that the person identified a modern playable. Now, again, we got to make the distinction. Currently played or theoretically could be played. Is the power level of Seance with the right cards to support it something that modern could happen? I think that was the mind frame with the speculator. And then it was also an education card. And then I'm thinking the speculator just thought that if he could get enough people interested into it, it could have the Saffron Olive effect. And actually did some pros 5-0'd with it. There were some good finishes with Seance. But unfortunately, it's just not powerful enough. And then it got reprinted, which was hilarious. But it's it's not sustainable just to speculate on cards. We are literally eating that last piece of candy a lot of the times. We're identifying low supply. In fact, that's that MTG Finance subreddit I showed you. They have one called like Market Watch or Market Alert, and it shows MTG, I believe, Quiet Speculation and MTG stocks, like if you have the premium membership, alert people of low supply. Why is MTG stocks down? It's down on my end. I can't remember if MTG Price somewhere has they have like in their Pro Trader, I know for a fact this is where they analyze the actual inventory that's left. So for example, you're looking at cards that are going up, they give a little bit of a market alert. Leyline of Sanctity is almost out of stock on Star City Games, Channel Fireball, Card Kingdom. Incoming potential price spike. So again, it's speculators most often are the person that eats the last piece of candy. That's it. That's a good analogy. So I'm still waiting. If someone can provide evidence of how speculators ruin it, please provide me the evidence. Speculators often push things over the edge and make others buy in. The chain reaction? Maybe so. But who are these others that are buying in? Are these people that actually are going to play the card? So it causes the padding. It causes prices never to go below a certain price and causes prices to never go above a certain price, because inevitably everyone has their price of when they will sell. And for me, they're good. They are a calming influence on the market, not a chaotic influence on the market. Without speculators,
makes it predictable.
Yes, without speculators, there'd be an even bigger swing of highs and lows. A more pronounced swing, I guess, would be the right thing. It keeps it in the middle. But when you eat not the last one, but at least the last 10 and sell 8 of them back for more money, it's not great. But not great for who? It was great for the speculator. Most of these buyouts, eventually, if people are willing to wait for the prices, so let's just take Chomano's, for example. That's one that had one of those. So here's Chomano's Blessing. So it had that spike up here to... Why isn't my mouse working? I killed my mouse. It's not working on. So it went up all the way to $4, and then it recorrected itself to where the true demand was. So speculators accelerate this process. The true demand of a Chomano's Blessing now is $3.27. The speculators have long sold off of the. I don't think that anyone's like buying into Chomano's Blessing now, thinking that it's going to go up much more. This is the sell-off point. Spoiler alert. Since we're talking about low supply, this card's going to have another spike. It's going to go back up. This is an insanely hard card to find online at the moment. So let's just go to Card Kingdom. They have 8 available at 12, out of stock everywhere else. That, in the scope of things, is not a lot. That's already $2 above market price. Their buy list for it is... They're currently buying it for $7. That is a very, very... And $9 store credit. That is a very, very... slim margins on $9 store credit to $11 cash. If we go over to Star City Games, I believe they were out of stock with Chainer's Edicts. And yep, out of stock. They have one plate at $10.25. This is Star City Games. Their inventory is massive. We go over to Cool Stuff. I know they don't have any in stock because I bought the last one for a deck before I get accused of speculating. I don't even have any damn Chainer's Edicts.
Yeah, you made me remove Chainer's Edicts from the Rakdos Control deck.
Yeah, I just don't have any more for Rakdos Control. So we have to just, even if I sell the deck, it's got to be Diabolical Edicts at this point. I'm out. I'm out of Chainer's Edicts. Completely out of stock of Chainer's Edicts.
Why is Edict being sold out? Small print run?
Yeah, well, it's an uncommon too. The demand of Pauper decks is that great. Look at how many decks use Chainer's Edicts. And a lot of fringe deck use them too. And a lot of times these are as 4-ofs with Chainer's Edicts. Now I click on one that doesn't even use one. Go me. 2 Chainer's Edicts in the main, none in the side for this particular Pestilence deck. But in these grindy blue-black control decks, it's definitely a really, really potent card. Chainer's Edict also went up in value at one point before they added it to the treasure chest, that it was very expensive in online price too. We go back to here, it hit all the, well, actually, never mind. I think this always, oh, it was in Vintage Masters, yeah. So it never actually did have that price, huge spike on MTGO because the supply is very, very great because it was in Vintage Masters, which this set was so overprinted. This was, to give you an example, look what Vintage Masters did to Black Lotus. It's the difference between Magic and online and paper prices. Just this is supply and demand. No one wants a Black Lotus because no one plays Vintage, so it's a $33 because Vintage Masters just killed the price of it. So, Chainer's Edict though has never had a common printing in paper. It's still an uncommon, so it's got a pretty low supply in Torment, being uncommon. And it had this. It actually spiked up before this Pauper demand. This was just the Pauper fanboys back in the day. This was the first time Pauper got popular. I don't think there was even people actively in Magic finance communities talking about Pauper back then. Correct me if I'm wrong if you are, really into that scene back then. A lot of people were still on the Modern and the Commander. This was the year of the Commander increase right here from Battle for Zendikar on. And then so we saw this massive price spike. It went all the way up to the $14 mark here, recorrected itself for the natural increase of where it should be. Then was flat for a while until it caught back up. Then went down to about $4.80 and has had this resurgence. Chainer's Edict also had a kind of a resurgence in price, or not resurgence, a decline in price here because black-blue control decks didn't see a lot of the meta share during this time period. If we actually go back to Pauper metas, if you go back to the Wayback Machine, I don't think you'd see a lot of Pauper, of black-blue control being popular in Pauper. In fact, wow, how is it getting? It's getting this. Even a couple weeks ago was the second most played deck, and so it looks like it's starting to get beat out by Delver again. Delver's actually pretty decent versus blue-black control. Blue-black control beats up on everything that beats Delver. It's like Kudatha Boros beats up on Delver. Look. Oh, Chloe, Zach's taking you out. Let's go. So yeah, so anyway, this meta shifts pretty much. If you go back on the Wayback Machine, Else was the most popular deck not too long ago. Affinity's been there. Kudatha Boros has been there multiple times. When I did my Pauper video, like the 5 misconceptions about Pauper, Kudatha Boros is clear down here. And now it's got a resurgence because Kudatha Boros just absolutely craps on Delver. It's got a very, very good matchup versus Delver. So just the ebb and flow of how to get on this Chainer's Edict. But like I said, like speculators are probably going to get blamed for Chainer's Edict spiking up again when just no one has Chainer's Edicts. They're all in decks. People playing Pauper are the main reason of cards going up in price. So anyway, I think we're getting to a time period, though, where this stream is just getting pretty redundant. So we can switch gears and talk about something else if anyone has any market-related questions. Ooh, look at me go. The audacity I have to answer market questions.
Just playing Magic?
Playing Magic is way too late at this point. As I am going to have to head home pretty soon. I'm also at the mercy of Zach because I don't have a car here at the store. Because some C-word is making me run to the store every day.
Chloe?
And some C-word named Chloe. That's a proper terminology of the Chloe word. Won't let me drive to the store. Now, I don't live too far from the store to begin with, so I should be walking my lazy ass to the store anyway. But I've had to run to the store because Chloe will not get in the damned car. She will not. She'll sit there and bark and nip at me until I put her leash on and we run to the store. So we have been running the store. So as soon as Zach wants to leave, I got to go. So that is the problem with the rest of the stream. But we've had it. I think we're up to like 175 at the point. This might be my most popular stream. And I know I've just been rambling nonstop, incoherently rambling about and yelling at the computer screen, which is, showing my age. I am an angry old man, whining about millennials as usual. But that is the nature of the beast now. When you get my age, you'll understand.
I'll have to shoot off myself.
All right.
I already whined about millennials, and I'm a millennial.
Now, technically, I'm still a millennial. Well, thanks for joining us, Scrawn. Everyone should go check out Scrawn's articles at roguedeckbuilder.com. And if you want to support Scrawn, come over to, see, here's the shill. Here's the real shill event. Come over to roguedeckbuilder.com and purchase a deck by Scrawn. We have a commission base set up that Scrawn will get a percentage of the purchase of a Scrawn deck. So if you want a Scrawny deck, you come over here and buy a Scrawny or read a Scrawny article, and this should have a way to check out the deck in the shop. You hit this little cart button, and it will come to the cart, and you can choose some options with the Pauper Land Venom Rush, because this has an option that has the full, what did this one have in it that was expensive? No. What was the expensive stuff?
No, the Fetch Land, the Pauper.
Oh, Ash Barrens? Yeah, this
Ash
is
Barrens.
we
And
probably need to
the,
adjust the price for this because Ash Barrens just tanked.
Well,
Oh,
that's good news.
there you go. All the people that want to say that I'm all about protecting my investments. Have you heard me whine once about Ash Barrens being reprinted in Masters 25? I bought a ton of these cards. Tons of them. I lost a ton of money on this spec. But actually, I lost nothing because they all went into our Pauper Battle Box ate up every copy of Ash Barrens. The 19 decks that we've built in our Pauper Battle Box have, at least 10 playsets of Ash Barrens.
Right, and there's the Ristic study in there too, though there's the
Yep, Ristic study.
without the lands and without the Ristic study. For the people who have commander decks that they can take their one-off Ristic studies out of if they really want to run this.
Yeah, yep. And to be honest, there probably is some replacements you can do for Ristic study. You just need to get card advantage.
Sure, right.
So,
It's,
yep.
What is it, like a $15 deck without the...
I think it gets down to
pricey
20.
cards?
It gets down to 25.
It's a deck that you win with contaminated ground.
It's
I think
15 on
pretty-
Magic Online. The Ristic studies are only like $3 a piece.
Yeah,
on
Ristic
Magic.
study's not
$3.
expensive at all because it doesn't see play outside of what 1-versus-1 commander maybe, or commander decks in general. Ristic study is actually a good example of no one's really ever spec'd on Ristic study, and it's followed. See, this is what happens. This is a good idea of what happens without speculators. And people might say this is better than, speculators watching a market. So in my opinion, there's no sign of people actively buying in Ristic studies. This has just been a supply that started in January 2014 as a $2 card, all the way up to now, up to a $10 card, with no major buyouts anywhere here to be seen. So it's just slowly but surely got up to that price. So the outcome is that on March of 2018, this card is now a $10 card. Whereas here, if like speculators would have saw this trend ahead of time, they could have bought this out and shot this up to a $10 card. And for a year, this would have been a $10 card ahead of where it would naturally go. That's kind of the consequences of speculators. However, the other consequences of not having speculators is some of these cards might just be lost now from this time period because it wasn't a worthwhile investment, and just the natural decay of cards where they get coffee spilled on them and not put in binders and sleeves that no one valued them, and then it's just more of them get destroyed. So there's pluses and minuses to people being aware of the value of Magic cards. So yeah, that's how you support good old Scrawn. And the same can be said for Tasty, or if you don't want to give any of these dirty, filthy rogue authors any sort of commission, then buy my decks, because it goes all to it. Which I don't think I have any decks up. I don't. I have like 7. We're gonna do the entire Pauper Battle Box on this. Not the entire. We'll put all the deck lists for the Pauper Battle Box, which are mostly tier decks. Unfortunately, I have this awful habit of taking a tier deck and being pissed off at how they build it and thinking I can do it better. So I always change it. Like the zombies deck I built today, I'm like, why the hell is this card in here? Sultai Emissary makes no sense. Why is Sultai Emissary in zombies? You don't want half those cards manifested because they have ETB triggers or they're going to be non-creature spells. 26 creatures in a manifest isn't the greatest outcome for being able to hit a manifest card that is worthwhile. And a lot of them you absolutely do not want, like the cycling one, or the one that gets back a random zombie from your graveyard, or Grey Merchant. None of those you want to be, or Gurmag Angler. None of those you want to be manifested over. So I'd have no clue why that was being consideration, why they're running Sultai Emissary. So I just added a couple, another Ghoul Collar and some more Ghoul Collar's Bells, I think is what the card is called. And it works a lot better. So it's hard for me to even stay with kind of net decks. I have a allergy to net decks.
Just like Desolator.
Damn net deckers. If you want to talk about people that ruin the game, just kidding. There's nothing wrong with net decking. People, if you think that that's the way that gives you the most competitive edge, or if you're not great at building decks yourself, net deck to your heart's content. Doesn't do anything. Just don't whine when people don't net deck. That's all I ask as a rogue deck builder. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with your last little chats. If we have any last questions for me.
Yeah, actually, we got this guy known as Popo, who wants to know what reprints you want to see in Core 2019.
Core 2019 reprints I'd like to see. I don't know. I'd like them to put some staple cards like Pithing Needle. I think this is the right place to, or is it Pithing Needle? Pithing, I'll say it correctly. Pithing Needle. That would be those type of cards. Hopefully they can get ahead of what the mechanics are going to run rampant. Like the whole problem with Kaladesh was the absolute joke of answers for a lot of the cards at the time period. Whereas if we would have had some of these later ones, I don't think it would have come to as big of a problem. So core, I would just like to see cards that are good for that environment. I don't think that Magic is in such a dire straits. The price of standard's actually been quite low comparatively. So I don't get this like new outrage for a system that's existed forever for $200 standard decks. Kaladesh has actually been one of the cheapest before Ixalan rotated in, because the lands that were required for building decks were very, very cheap. The Shadows of Innistrad and the Battle for Zendikar lands were insanely cheap. And the fast lands, a lot of times in those decks, weren't included as 4-ofs or were still drafted, so there are plenty of them to go around. And so standard was a very, very inexpensive format with tons of even tier decks at the $100 mark. So I think we have a lot of people misguided with this whole notion that standard is inaccessible or expensive, when I remember the days of $700, $800 Chandras, or even, heaven forbid, the Jason the Mind Sculptor days of you needed 4 Jason the Mind Sculptors $110 a pop. And you couldn't even buy World Wake packs to get the damn things because every World Wake pack was sold out. And it was still in standard. So there have been way worse times for the respective standard formats. So instead of trying to hyper-focus on cards that need reprinted value-wise, I think that they should use the opportunity of Core 2019 to reprint cards that would be a good fit for standard environments. Of course, pet cards I'd love to see. I want to see Oversold Cemetery in Modern. I'd love Oversold Cemetery to be reprinted in Core Set 2019. And Waste Not. Those are just pet cards that I always love to play around with. There have been a few cards that I thought have been fun to play with that just didn't work in their standard environment. And it's always nice when they give it a second chance. I don't, off the top of my head though, I don't have a list of cards that I would like to be reprinted in the Core 2019. Purple is now going from insulting me to being nice to me. Oh no, the sky has fallen.
Not that nice. He's not even going to pay you. He says that people should do it, but he won't lead by example.
Guy's got to eat. He's got to. I've never understood too why creators always like to like the Patreon creators is always the funny one where, you know, Patreon creators will support another Patreon, and that just to me kind of like defeats the purpose of having a Patreon to begin with. But you know, so I don't, people that do like to use the super chats or do like to donate, I actually like it when people actually purchase things rather than do super chats. I like to give back, so you're actually getting something and supporting me in the process. Kind of it's Pareto efficiency, where two people come to a agreement, a economic or a trade, rather than just one kind of. And people would say, well, I create videos and that's the money in itself. But yep, I never get a lot of super chats. I don't think that my fan base is too keen on that anyway. So appreciate all the other ways that people have supported Rogue Deck Builder in the past. I've had some great fans, and so nothing to complain here. Someone bought you new curtains? Nice. You better be playing with that playmat purple. I should have waited for the high-res image. I hope it actually looks okay, as I didn't have one made and actually sent to me before I shipped it off. Anywho, any lasting comments, Casey?
No. I think we've got just about everything, unless you want to, go back to these other comments that you skipped over.
Appreciate it, Austin. You don't need to give me super chats, though. You support enough. Speaking of which, if people are wondering other ways to support the channel, best way to do so, just come over here and buy a product. Second best way to do so, utilize my Patreon. This is an insane opportunity. Hey, we actually got a Streamlabs, or nope, that's coming from there comes from the good old super chat. Utilize this Patreon. I'm not joking. If you spend a lot of money on Magic the Gathering, you will make your money back by signing up for this Pirates Plunder or Pirates Plunder ×2. So basically, to explain these tiers, you spend if you sign up for the $20 tier, you can get up to 5 products a month. Means booster box and other sealed products at cost from our sources. There are plenty of patrons that are already taken advantage, and they are getting $130 boxes of Masters 25 shipped to them. They just cover the shipping and associated PayPal fees and shipping fees, and they get that $130 box. It ends up being like $155 shipped, which is as good as Sports and More was able to offer. You even tack on that $20 per month purchase. That's $175 right there for a Masters 25 box. You do this Pirates Plunder ×2, you can get up to 10 products. I've added 2 new tiers for those of you that might be interested, because we had some people actually want them. It is not showing up for some reason. Oh, there it is. So twice the crack. So $8 and more. Some people have requested more. Than the most popular patron tier is people that want Zach to crack them a booster box. We have a booster pack. So $4 a month, you can sponsor a crack addict, which is Zach, for him to at least crack a pack and not crack us out of house and home. He can get that fresh pack smell, and you will sponsor it. And so for this $8 tier, you can do twice the crack. So you can get 2 packs cracked in your honor. We send you the mythics, the foils, and the uncommons, and you have the option to have them signed. If there is a common you want to, just let us know. We'll send you the common. We just want to just not waste everyone's money by then having to put 2 stamps on an envelope rather than 1, because it does require 2 stamps, an additional 1-ounce stamp, usually to put the entire pack. And no one wants that draft trash anyway. The $10 tier is also a good one to sign up for, because you get 10% off all RDB purchases, including decks from Rogue Deck Builder, playmats, everything. It's just a good 10% code. Again, if you do a big order, right there alone is a way to actually save money. Brewers Council is specifically don't have any patrons at the moment for it. If you want me to play a particular deck or brew a particular deck or answer a deck question, this is a way to guarantee that I do so. And then the last but not least, the big one is the Big C. Apparently that's slang for cocaine. Is if you want to spend $99 a month, we will crack an entire booster box and send you all the rares and mythics to you, and really give Zach that fix. But that is the best way to support the Rogue Deck Builder. The other, of course, ways is just to continue to watch the channel, continue to be subscribed, like, share it on. Continue to criticize. I do, like every human, need to be kept in my place when I'm wrong about a particular issue. How I grow as a person is I hear feedback, as I hear other conflicting points of view, and that's the only way that I can change. And I hope that you'll continue to be critical of the videos and the decks or the opinions that I put out there. So if you haven't subscribed to Twitter, That's the best way to communicate with me. Otherwise, we do have a Facebook page, Facebook.com/Rogue Deck Builder. We'll be creating a second channel here or Zach's fishing channel. We'll be doing more content too in the future, but we don't want to, distract away from the Rogue Deck Builder channel at the moment as well. So appreciate everyone joining on stream.
Potentially Kevin.
Potentially Kevin. Great little starting point. Appreciate everyone joining on stream. Again, we're going to have a lot of fun stuff happening. The Rogue Master Brewer competition will be coming back to Rogue Deck Builder. We're going to try to have a lot of other ways to interact with everyone on roguedeckbuilder.com. Start actually utilizing the website. I do have to renew the damn thing, so we might as well get our money's worth out of the website and try to have a nice home for other like-minded people that like to brew decks. So that will be the focus of that. So I think I'm going to...
one more thing.
Sure.
Purple wanted to know your super chat noises. So do you want to explain to him Streamlabs sometime?
Streamlabs. Streamlabs is just a better... Super chat takes a massive cut. The YouTube takes a huge cut when you utilize the super chats. The Streamlabs is often a better way to do so.
It also lets you customize your sounds.
Exactly. You saw that little zombie pop up. I think Streamlabs is the website that's doing that. You sign up for Streamlabs, and as a streamer, it allows you to like customize ways that donations get either read. I don't know why they're not reading it. It should be. Maybe I turned it off because it was getting annoying during a certain stream. But it's Streamlabs. Also, if you donate through the Streamlabs link, you still get the message showing up on the YouTube video. That won't show up in the chat, of course. But all of the Streamlabs money goes directly to the creator. It doesn't take a 33% cut like the super chats do. So a lot of people aren't informed by that they think they're giving like $1 to a creator when actually they're giving 66.6 cents to the creator instead. So your $1 donations are actually the mark of the devil.
And now you've just made Purple Stream way more obnoxious. So
they're going to keep giving him $1 over and over. So
no, teaching him how to use
He's a Clorox tier. Oh, Purple! I almost sent you this shirt.
I didn't get Clorox. Sorry, I got these. They're cheaper.
I almost sent you this shirt. Almost did it. Almost did it.
What?
I had it in the cart. I'm like, I'm gonna send Purple a T-shirt, but I'm like, $18 for a T-shirt? That for just a crappy T-shirt? I don't want to get ripped off, and then have to send it to Kanakada. Oh, probably even more to send it, but. Official Clorox brand. The whole thing, I don't know how these companies get away with this. Why aren't they sued into oblivion by now? But there was some funny Clorox t-shirts. I think it's just because it's become such an internet meme. Anyway, looks like Zach's ready to go, so we're going to end this stream before I get left in the cold and have to walk. Chloe, I said walk, and Chloe just turns. I mean, walk? Have to walk home in the cold and then get mugged by some random person that's on their way from Vegas to the Greyhound that's on their way from Vegas to Denver. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna call it. Thanks everyone for joining. It's been a great stream. I think we shattered some records with attendees. I wonder how many people here are just to find dirt on me to try to get me DCI banned. If so, welcome as well, and thanks for joining. I am signing off.